Welcome to Editor.
Well, we're not ready yet. We still have prep to do. We still have to set these up.
Oh, I guess it's right here.
It's not showing up in my source list. We can't move this. We can't move this. Don't let me fidget with it.
Don't move it.
I will.
Don't.
Because you know me.
Yeah.
I'm going to fidget with it.
Don't do it.
Okay. This is a Reed Instruments R8050. The only difference between that and like an 8080 is it doesn't do data logging. So like, for example, if I were a traffic engineer and I want to know like the sound that cars made all day, then I
take a look at the logs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
HomePods.
You could just not buy them.
Well, I need to.
You need to know.
I need to know.
I need to know.
I need the confirmation bias.
That it's not better than...
Apple is extremely good at confirming my biases about Apple.
Welcome to the HomePod episode.
Christ.
Your HomePod is about to reset. Keep pressing until you hear 3 beeps.
So the whole point of this I want to talk about these HomePods.
Yeah.
I think it's worth revisiting them. And then I have
Welcome back home.
I have a ton of headphones.
Yeah.
That I wanted to talk about.
It's all kinds of sound.
All kinds of sound. And so we have this device. This is a decibel sound pressure level meter reader thingy. Yeah. It's a fancy one. It's not like one of these Amazon ones for $20. It's a Reed Instruments R8050. It's very accurate within 1.4 dB plus or minus, so 2.8, which puts it on the very top end of the class 2 sound pressure level meters.
Nice.
And the whole point of this is we're playing a 2500 hertz sine wave out of the speaker at this distance so that we can get it to 85 dB because we're going to compare these. We're going to do like a blind test. And the idea is when you're testing audio stuff, changes in volume are a huge differentiator in how people perceive it. And almost always people will choose the higher volume one as the better sounding one.
Even if it's not necessarily reproducing all of the the sound spectrum.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to mitigate here is
sound level.
At least within range. Humans can tell, especially you, the difference between 0 and 3 dB or plus and minus 1.4 dB. It's really close, but this is way closer than most people will ever get. And the idea is we want to basically blind test them, and we marked our position there, and
it's alive.
At some point, we're going to pause this and let that thing play for a little while so that it can acclimate to its surroundings.
Yeah.
And then we're going to just carefully place it somewhere else. Do the same thing with this one. Tune it to 85 dB. We're not going to change the volume slider. And then let it acclimate by playing a song. Whatever our test song is going to be, it'll allow us to acclimate to the test song as well. And then I'm going to be blinded, or Kyle will, and then we're going to swap them. We're not going to say which one's which. We're going to swap them, let them play, and then
guess whether it's Gen 1 or Gen 2.
Yeah. And then also we can say, subjectively, of course, which one sounds better, if at all.
Supposedly.
Supposedly.
The new one should sound better. It's newer. But it is cheaper and has less microphones, so it's hard to say.
And speakers.
And speakers.
Two fewer speakers. So the very first time I did this, I started it up with the Gen 2, brand new, started it up.
Just the other day.
Yep. I started it up and...
Ding dong.
Connection failed.
You moved it too far away.
This is the second time this happened.
You gotta keep it close.
Oh my God.
It's doing NFC things. Now just set it on top of it. There you go. Or, yeah.
I mean...
Oh, maybe because we're talking over it too. I think it is also trying to listen to you.
It is, yeah. Pick a room. We'll put it back in my band room. Agree. Transfer settings.
Yeah, I need to transfer settings because it only does AirPlay.
Don't use my personal requests. So I did this the very first time, I just jumped through all those hoops. Same thing, paired it. It didn't say connection failed, even though I moved my phone way further away, actually, because I didn't. The talking, I think, is the kicker. It's listening, like Sonos does. And then it went through its whole setup, and then I just got a spinning white light on top of it for a long time. I waited 11 minutes, and then it went away.
Yeah.
And then nothing. I tapped the HomePod, nothing. I waited. Finally, it just started spinning white again.
And then there was a firmware update.
It hard reset itself. So I had to go through the setup again, and then it worked fine.
Okay.
Then immediately it updated to, I got to pick up my kid. It immediately updated to 16.3.
Oh, yeah.
Right after that. It wouldn't let me jump past anything else. And because it shipped with 16.0, which is actually a good indicator that these were supposed to come out last year.
Right.
And you could have you were able to see it in the URLs of Apple's marketing pages. They all have 2022 parts of the URL. Anyway, so this is ready. So we're going to stop this for a second. Some features may not work on this network. That's fine. Oh, I tapped the Sonos icon.
You're
my beloved.
You're so in the Sonos.
Now let's see if it shows up. No. Nope. Come on.
We've got a lot of devices on this network.
Yeah, but yours is showing up.
Your
Gen 1.
Because it's old.
This is the problem that I ran into originally.
What about if you do it down there?
Yeah, that's fine. It's the same menu, but yeah. Just different context.
Maybe gets confused. Band room?
Still configuring. Okay, fair enough. I'll let it wait. Yours did have to configure for a long time. Okay, put it in my favorites, so it's at the top of the list. So I will say this. One cool thing is this, when I went to go set up mine when I brought it here.
Yeah.
Because one of the big problems is when there's no way to talk to that thing other than plugging it in and getting it on Wi-Fi and then NFC.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually have a Bluetooth connection that we're aware of. It doesn't ping the Bluetooth though, I noticed. And so they must use some combination of that to do the handoffs and stuff. I don't know. Who the f knows? But anyway, the point is when I plugged it in, it didn't do anything. And you would expect it to like talk to you or have a spinning light or blinking light or something. So I just tapped the top and it said, I'm not connected to a network, basically. There's no network connection. And it said, check the HomePod for more or the Home app for more details.
Yeah.
So I went in the Home app, found it, and then it did see it.
Yeah.
And it said, it seems like this one's not, your HomePod's not connected to this network.
Here at CMAC.
Yeah. So do you want to, it gave me a new button that said, move it to this network. And I did it and it worked.
Nice.
So fine. But except for the fact that it didn't work, meaning I still had to reset this thing. It wouldn't see it in the source list. And even after resetting it, it still doesn't see it. But we're going to let it configure, which it seems like it's done now. It
looks like it's done.
So we're going to see it if it appears on the source list now. Kyle's HomePod there is showing.
Apple TVs.
Shows all the Apple TVs, and it still doesn't show this thing. Amazing.
Just play it and just do the handoff.
Well, it did say that it wasn't allowed or wouldn't work. So
just open up the music app, play the song, and just hand it over.
I'm not going to put that on.
Well, don't play that.
Something that's going to get us.
Yeah, just play the beep.
That's awful.
Play the dupe.
It hurts.
2500 hertz.
Handoff. Oh,
Sure. Here's some music picked just for you.
It's because I touched it. That's weird. It's capacitive, isn't it?
Try to hand it off to my HomePod.
It randomly picked a Beach House song, so that was cool. What a piece of shit.
3150.
All right. Well, this is a really short episode. The HomePods.
So this is the problem. Like there's no other way for me to interface with this thing.
Yeah.
Right? Kyle, have you ever used sorry to put my hand in your face. Have you ever used my Sonos Move before?
The Move, no, I haven't,
Okay.
but I've used the sound bar.
Okay. The first thing that you see about it is that it's got a big handle, which is very comfortable, right?
Yeah.
Do you know what company was one of the first to create a device with a big handle?
It's a good handle.
That was really approachable, that made something feel welcome? Is Apple. It was with the iMac. The iMac.
The 1998
Yeah.
colorful iMac.
It had a
with the
handle.
CRT, yeah.
And that was a big deal for it because they wanted it to feel like it was something that you can be comfortable lifting up and touching and holding. One cable to plug it in, famously, right? Mm-hmm. This thing, when you touch it, you feel like you're denting it, first of all.
I dented mine a little bit transporting it here today.
And how many times on any of these HomePod Mini, HomePods, have you accidentally touched the top and played a song? I just did it today.
You just did it now, yeah.
Yeah. And my cats with the HomePod, when I had HomePod Minis, they figured out how to just touch it to play music. And they did it every day. So we have someone sometimes helping us clean the house constantly. And like, what do I do? What do I do? This isn't a perfect device. It also costs more than the HomePods.
Yeah, how much is the
I think
Sonos Move?
$399. I could be wrong.
But it also moves. It's got a battery in it.
It's got a big battery in it. It's bigger.
It's got a big old dock.
It's got a handle. You can have docks, but even if you don't have the dock, it has. This is shocking. I know. It's got a USB-C port.
Wow.
So even if you don't have the dock, you can actually charge it, update it, do things. But also, it jumps from Wi-Fi to Bluetooth.
Okay, so it's like any other Bluetooth speaker. Anybody can connect to it.
Yep.
What about Wi-Fi? You connect it to your network through the Sonos app?
Yeah, so it would be like a normal Sonos setup, which you've set up, right? So right now, it's searching right now for the Wi-Fi network, but I can swap it over to Bluetooth. It'll switch the light to blue.
For Bluetooth. Blue for Bluetooth.
Right.
Wow.
So let's do, is it actually blinking blue? Okay.
Yes.
So
I could connect to it with my phone.
Yeah, why don't you actually?
And I'm not even.
Because I have a 500 thing. Well.
You have a whole bunch of Bluetooth.
I've got a lot of Bluetooth items. And so I guess what we're going to do is we're going to play the 2500 hertz sine wave there. And point it at us and at least try to get some subjective idea of what they sound like. We don't need to sit in different places, but the volume is a factor. So just get it nice and centered. Now I will say that this Move is directional, mostly.
Yeah,
it's mostly forward firing. It does have some wall firing, and this one will tune itself with microphones the way the HomePod does.
How many hertz should
2500. Just so that we're focusing on mid-range. And then what we're going to do is we're going to get the volume so that it's
2500 hertz.
So slide that volume thing till you see 85 come up constantly there. Oof.
Oh. I handed off to my HomePod because I got too close to it. Wait, let me switch.
Oh, fucking HomePods. Okay. You may want to use the slider so you can get more accurate, so it doesn't do the big jumps. That's 150. 3150. This is driving me insane. I mean, it should move rapidly. You want to be at 85 as a norm,
but
and it's going to oscillate.
This file is.
I hear it fading in. It's weird.
Is your Sonos getting mad at me for doing this?
I see the SpongeBob card. 2500 hertz later.
This file is. I'm moving it, and this file is changing. I can't.
Wait. Let it play. It keeps changing volume. Are we going crazy?
Anyway, that's about 85 decibels. Why are we measuring for 85 decibels?
Because I want it to be the same perceived volume. Because there's no point in comparing.
But the file is changing. Why is the file? Well,
there's going to be a lot of jump cuts in this episode
that we wanted to do. Working.
Well, this is a $300 brick right now, literally. So let's play a song, any song. I don't care.
This is my favorite song, 2,500 hertz is now.
Brian came. He's like, what the hell's that noise?
Is that you guys? I don't know. What do you want to listen to? What's your favorite tunings?
I have a whole 50 song playlist for this purpose. You like Steely Dan, so let's play Steely Dan.
Woo! We'll come back after we play some Steely Dan because I'm not going to get demonetized.
Later that same evening.
Yeah, that sounds like Steely Dan on a Sonos.
Yeah, and you know what I immediately noticed is the Sonos is so isolated from the Surface that we didn't get any benefit from the Surface.
No.
So one of the things
the battery is down there.
Yeah, so you have a lot of isolation.
The HomePod has a subwoofer facing down.
You can, if you hold it in your palm when you're playing, you can literally feel the woofers, hitting your fingers.
Awesome.
So your experience with the HomePod in general will change dramatically based on what surface you have it on.
Yeah.
And some people put it on little risers, for better or for worse, mainly because the cable's so fucking long that if you want it on your kitchen counter and you have to deal with 90 feet of cable, which is what you've done here.
Get this little base here that can hold the HomePod's cable together. And this one, even the power plug goes in it, and then it can hang from the wall. But the HomePod Mini doesn't have the downward facing.
Exactly. And also
subwoofer,
it fires out the sides.
Yeah.
So when you place it this way, you're firing, like you're hoping your reflections are going to come.
Yeah.
So it will affect sound. It could be better even.
Yeah.
But it will affect it. So let's go ahead and switch to the HomePod and play some Steely Dan. To yours. And then let's play some Steely Dan there. I'm curious.
5 minutes later.
So it still sounds good to me.
Yeah.
The bass has a lot of presence. And when we first talked about this HomePod 3 years ago, I said it sounds like a concert hall. It sounds like what you would hear at a stadium concert with those speaker arrays and the big old subwoofers out front. The separation of the bass from the highs is great, but there is that mid scoop.
Huge mid scoop.
But again, also like a concert, like how many concerts have you gone to where the mids are just drowned out?
Many, but also now they try, modern.
Hopefully
they try to mitigate for that, especially for better sound. But so here's what's happening. It was nice. It actually is using this table as an instrument.
Yes.
And I think that adds to the feel of it. And I think that actually in some ways makes it more pleasant.
Yeah.
The fact that, the vocals sounded like over here and the lows, sound like they were part of the table.
Yeah.
And then so this is a preference thing, but that is a substantial mid scoop. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's dramatic. And I felt like I heard a lot more here, and the tweeters were more balanced here.
And they're mostly facing us.
It was directional. Exactly. Yeah. So that made a huge difference. We did a really good job matching volume, though, at least for my perception. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that sounded pretty close.
We got there.
But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely prefer this more balanced mix and sound over that, but I actually prefer the way this handles bass.
Yeah.
Better. It's more fun. It really is. But it came with one major consequence, which was vocals, like spoken word content, audiobooks and podcasts sounded like horse.
Yeah, it's not for that.
And I called it out literally day one. I mean, we can go back and look at our original reviews. And I said the same thing about the HomePod Mini.
Yes.
Where for listening to spoken word content was atrocious. And everybody was like, well, that's subjective. No, it actually washed out vocals. Turns out, if you look at the release notes for update 16.3, they've actually added machine learning based tuning to compensate for how it sounds with spoken word content.
It should be able to tell that you're listening to a podcast or a news thing.
Yeah, and it's just looking for those spoken word frequencies, those common ones.
And should re-EQ
unless you're Scott.
I'm Scott Ollery.
We're going to go off on the weeds of it. He's got such a great voice.
He does. He's perfect.
It's amazing. But yeah, It does. It retunes. And now the other thing is let's say I didn't like something about how this sounded, right? It's got EQ.
You could go into the Sonos
I can
app.
actually change it.
Yeah.
That's huge, right? That after several updates, they put EQ presets in. So you can
In
do
the
like
home app.
rock,
Yeah.
concert hall, because, that's what I'm always looking for. You can't fine tune it.
There's a reduce bass option.
Now there's a reduce bass option, and I was actually going to ask you to play that to see, because what's going to happen is so what happens is when you have a scoop like that, you're expecting the low end to compensate for the missing mids. You can even push your crossover threshold a little higher to help with that. So like instead of like 100 or 125 or whatever, you'd push it to even 200, which is unusual, or the other way around. The crossover is basically when it switches from your woofer to your normal tweeter, that level, which frequency.
The speaker that does the highs and the mids versus the speaker that does the bass.
Yeah, and so you can ask both things of both types of speakers, but
All right, let's take a listen.
Oh man, it sounds like a HomePod Mini now.
It does.
It really does.
It just turns off the subwoofer. Oh, it's so thin.
It sounds exactly like the HomePod Mini. It really does.
It sounds like a HomePod Mini.
It does. It does.
That's weird.
It sounds exactly like a HomePod Mini. It's wild. I strongly recommend you give it a try. But I will say that if you aren't, if you're hoping to, if you're not relying on the machine learning to tune it for spoken word content, that is a very useful control.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I would turn that off every time.
Very weird. All right, let's switch over to HomePod number 2.
Okay, if we can get it to work, ever. So we're going to reset it again and try to use it on Kyle's phone. I was going to unplug it and do the hard reset.
Oh, you're going to do that? Okay.
We need to remove it
Well,
from...
you don't have to, but you can, yeah.
It doesn't see it, so it's not going to matter, I guess, but I don't think I'm ever going to put this thing back on my phone again.
Oh.
It's a piece of
P.
it pisses me off. Like this product.
I'm surprised you bought this.
I wanted to know. I wanted to know what they did, if they made an improvement.
But also you're torturing yourself.
It is like torture. First of all, having to deal with the Home app to interface with this thing is frustrating. And then that discontinuity between music, the music app, and the HomePod app. Oh, you know what else you could do? You could turn off the buttons on top.
Oh.
You can disable them. Imagine that. So he's going to wait 10 seconds. There you go. I want to watch him fiddle with trying to plug it back in. You're going to wait another 10 seconds. Now you're going to hold. Then you're going to get the white light. Then it's going to turn into a red light. Then it's going to say keep holding. 3 beeps. My issue with this device is...
So I don't know if it's going to turn red because...
Well, it's supposed to. It's the command, right? Well, you got to redo it now from scratch.
Well, you've already removed it, so it's not connected to anything.
I don't have an answer.
No, but it should still... Yeah, we should do a hard reset again.
Okay.
We got to start that process over.
1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7 Mississippi, 8 Mississippi, 9 Mississippi, 10 Mississippi. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi, 5 Mississippi, 6 Mississippi, 7... Ah!
You're basically just waiting for that white light to come up. You don't have to wait the full
red.
10 seconds. Just keep holding. And this is how you hard reset HomePods, which if you own a HomePod, you will be doing this frequently.
I haven't done it in a year. That said, the last 9 months, my HomePod was not connected to my iCloud account properly.
Yeah.
HomePod is about to reset.
You haven't done it in a year because you didn't want to. You should have.
All right.
All right, so that's going to take it like 15 minutes. I haven't noticed a speed difference in the quality of life between these.
Yeah.
I did notice that the...
Siri moves at the same
From my memory, I thought the
Space.
screen on the new one was bigger than the old one, but actually the old one, at least the plastic part
like an
is
inch and a half.
bigger
Yeah.
visually because it's also on top, whereas this one
lighting.
is recessed.
Yeah. I like this better.
Me too. This
than
is
the
clearly a
recessed.
cheaper product, and it's cheaper in a few ways. They took out 2 of the drivers, and they also took out 2 of the microphones.
Yes.
But
And hopefully through the magic of software, it sounds just as good.
yeah, it could.
Maybe better.
But here's one thing. So in my own testing at home, I noticed it didn't get as loud and as present, and it didn't feel as present as the old one. I could be wrong. Now, here's another thing.
I haven't really listened to it yet.
When
We've been fiddling with it all.
I know. When I did my initial testing, it sounded atrocious. Atrocious-ish.
Atrocious-ish.
It sounded horrible. And it wasn't until it actually did that update that it sounded better. So something,
All right. It has rebooted from being reset. The white light is on.
there's going to be so many jump cuts in this episode.
Yeah, sure. Oh.
Well, I just did 16.3.1 on it. Do you need to update your phone?
I need to update my phone. Oh no.
Oh my God, man.
What is my phone on? I thought I'm up to date. Nope, I'm not.
This device is like pulling teeth. And that's really what it is. Like, the whole thing about Apple,
It just works.
yeah, historically is it's supposed to work. They discontinued the original HomePod
Yes.
very quickly in its
I mean,
lifespan.
it was
Couple years.
like 2 years.
Yeah.
I
And
mean, they just didn't update it.
in that time,
And our guess was a bunch of them were just sitting in a warehouse anyway because
Well, they were.
listened to our review of this HomePod.
they were, and people found that out pretty quickly when reports started coming out that they were selling through their initial manufacturing run, and then also, they didn't sell very many of them. They were $350 when they came out, right? $350.
I think so.
Yeah.
Because this one was 200, 300.
$299, yeah. And you could see where they saved the money, but they had even more problems when they came out, which was you couldn't really do anything with them. You couldn't connect them to anything else. You couldn't, no other services.
Yeah, Spotify was pretty closed down. Although Spotify Spotify was like, oh yeah, Apple's not letting us use us, letting you use us on their things. It's Apple's fault. And then Apple did open it up, and Spotify was like, we're closing this back down.
Yeah, and then the idea is because their whole thing is they're in the middle of litigation with Apple. So if they were to allow themselves to be on that platform, they wouldn't go so well. But anyway, they discontinued this thing. They started failing frequently for people in terms of software, and also there's
kept
bad
my fingers
capacitor.
crossed that this one still works. And yeah, I was just like, you were like, bring it to the podcast studio, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Another
I sold him that one.
possible
That's even
point to
funnier.
This was the one you bought for us to review, and I liked it. And I was like, can I keep it? Can I buy it from you? And you're like, well, you're crazy, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, this was all of the caveats were there. I was like, this is not a good product.
But I like
It's
the way
locked
it
down. I
sounds.
mean, it's just.
I wish I had an aux port. I wish I could plug my like electric drum set into
Yeah.
it because that would sound awesome.
And so the Move doesn't have that. And the idea is you at least have Bluetooth. And you do have this. They could actually make it work with software probably.
Yeah,
And this is just
audio
charging
input
pins.
on.
But most of the other Sonos stuff does. Their portable stuff doesn't have an aux port, which is where I think it would be actually really useful.
most useful.
But it's not a speaker that will ever I can still use it with Bluetooth, and Bluetooth is a standard, and it won't be as nice as an aux port. Like, it'd be cool to be able to plug an iPod into this and just have it sit there.
Put an iPod dock on top.
But this is a speaker that I can use indefinitely.
Yeah.
Bluetooth isn't going anywhere
Yeah.
not anytime soon.
Even
Maybe on an
even
infinite
if
time
Apple
scale.
moves on to AirPlay 3 or something and
Yeah.
then doesn't put AirPlay 2 in,
Yeah,
like drops backwards compatibility. I'm just updating my phone.
this is wild.
This is great radio.
It is great radio.
What all the testing we were planning on doing is just
has failed because the HomePod's failed, and I was thinking
this
that this
is also
is a
I forgot to update my phone.
yeah, but still, I mean, come on, you can't set up an HomePod like if you don't have the latest OS.
But
Like, that's
I probably
bonkers.
could have set it up
if
right
you were
out of
on-
the box.
Yeah,
and then the HomePod would be like, I have an update. My phone would be like, I have an update, and I would just update all of it together.
Yeah, but that's ridiculous.
We're doing this a little out of order.
It's still ridiculous. Like the idea that a user needs to update their phone. Like, what if they have a phone that won't run 16.3? You can't even use a fucking
then they
HomePod.
would. Yeah, I mean, if you had an iPhone SE 1. What if 15 was your last OS? Like, that are
you could
there
run?
any phones that I don't think there are any phones that fell off at 15.
I don't know. I'm just for the sake for my like it's just like
I'm running my iPhone 5S, and I would really like to be able to use a HomePod.
This is a product that doesn't need to exist. Like it was a failure. They brought it back as an also ran. I think that they brought it back in part because there's an A8 in there, and which
They
is
just
an
had a
old
bunch
chip.
of A8 chips sitting around, and they needed.
They've
something to do
updated they've updated the chipset. I think because of supply constraints, they couldn't get any more A8s. That's part of why they didn't do any additional ones. And this is supposed to be faster, and it also cannot link up. You can't use them in a stereo pair together.
I can't use a Gen 1 and a Gen 2. You
which
can
is
use
wild.
2 Gen 2s.
It's insane to me that you can't use them together. I mean, I can think of all kinds of
we would have compared to see if they sounded much different, but we can't.
I just think my take is like Apple made a fool of themselves with this device. I think they're bringing it out to satisfy the people that really wanted them, or maybe they've failed. So many of these failed, and people need to replace them because they're part of their home workflow or their
Fool
home
me
setup.
once.
Fool me once. And speaking of fool me once,
Don't get fooled again.
boy.
All right, so we're going
to revisit this in a
We'll
minute.
come back to this once my phone updates. But let's talk about headphones.
Yeah, I want to.
The other
another
sound.
product that really frustrates me is the AirPods Max. This is the dreaded AirPods Max headphone
Clack.
ear cup clack that everybody cannot stand. It's an awful sound. I will say though,
So these are
I would trade that sound, meaning I would accept it happily, if I could have headphones that were as comfortable as these. These are incredibly comfortable headphones. I don't
you
think
live
that-
with the clack for the comfort.
exactly. I don't
Now,
think.
okay, so back in 2020, we did a very long video
Hour and a half.
about the AirPods Max. You still have your blue ones. Now, these aren't the same ones
No,
that we talked
by
about.
a lot.
And since then your wife also got a pair, does she still use hers?
She doesn't use them anymore.
She doesn't use them.
She can't stand them.
You still use yours when you're not using this other bevy of filling sound devices.
Yeah. So
What's your ratio of using these?
these,
Yeah.
if they worked, I'd probably use them 75% of the time.
Wow.
When I'm at home.
Yeah.
But the problem is that they often don't work and they often
HomePod
disconnect.
Airs.
So I'm going to give you a very quick review of these. I think that Apple, these, like the HomePod, have some major flaws, especially for ones that were manufactured early. But if you get a set that works and works for you, I think that these, and if you watch a lot of stuff on your iPad or on your Mac, or even your Apple TV in some instances, these are probably the best in class listening experience for watching content on your Apple devices. And if you go back to my earlier review,
Voices are okay. There's no mid-range scoop as bad as the HomePod.
way better. They're tuned a million times better than the HomePods. If you want something that's going to be stable, or you're going to travel a lot,
And not clack.
and not clack, these are not for you. Back in my early review, or the hour and a half one we did,
Yeah.
I said that I think that the phantom reason for the reason why these exist and why they actually are worth their price is if you were going to use them as a home theater replacement. If you were a single person
Solo.
and you want to watch a lot of content and really have an awesome listening experience, and I actually think that part of the review still holds up.
Yeah.
Back when we did the review, Apple TV did not connect with HomePods or AirPods Max.
Yeah.
And I said that I guarantee you the next one that comes out, this will be part of that message.
And Dolby Atmos.
And it was.
Yeah.
And they put in spatial audio and all the fun stuff. Early on, these had some issues with charging. They wouldn't hold a charge because there's no way to turn them off.
Unless you put them in their
Even
case,
if you put
and
them in the
even
case,
then
they still had issues.
drained.
They still drained because the case turns out didn't turn them off. And if you remember, the case was like a bra. I fucking threw them out. I don't even know where they are anymore. Should have given them to Kyle. They're useless. They're absolutely useless. For travel, I bought a large case. I never used that either. One thing I was very wrong about, I postulated that this mesh would be very weak.
Yeah.
It is not. It holds up extremely well. Unlike iPhone cases, where this kind of material, this fluoroelastomer, will peel.
Yeah.
These have held up incredibly well. I hang these, the little knob you use to pull out drawers?
Yeah.
I hang them on that knob, just like this, or even hooks. I put them on the mesh.
Yeah.
And it still has not poked a hole through the mesh.
Wow.
So, however,
that's what you're
it's hard to say. It's hard to say because I haven't actually had any particular pair long enough for them to really test the durability of them. I had these since day one. This is my 10th pair.
Replaced by Apple.
Replaced by Apple. Literally 9 times they've been replaced. I am not alone. I was looking in Reddit. I look through the forums. I look at the Mac Rumors forums. There are people that have replaced these 7, 8. Quinn Nelson has had several replacements himself.
Yeah.
Famously. I am far from alone. There is a problem with these that I think is first of all, these don't work right now. They work. You can make them work. Then they will crap out. There's a problem with them. This is, by the way, this ability to remove the ear cups is amazing.
Super easy.
100% one of the most awesome headphone features ever. They're also incredibly comfortable. No third parties have been able to match the comfort of these. There's a big caveat to that, though. We'll get to that in a second. But there's a flaw.
Yeah.
When you're listening to these, when you're using them at length, as most people will, you will develop condensation inside the cup.
Even in the wintertime.
Even in the dry air. If you sweat and shower or whatever, and you put them on your ears, even if you're dry, you think you're dry, but you're moist.
Being a human,
in general, if you're a
you are
moist person, if you put them on, you will develop condensation will develop in here, and it'll get completely. It'll be like literally. I've had it to where I've been able to
beads of water
drip out. Yeah,
gross.
And so what happens is that'll eventually cause a short inside here, and you have the short, which is what I have, which is what the problem with these, because you'll be listening to them, and then all of a sudden one side will cut out, and you'll start getting a clicking sound in the left cup, and that clicking sound it's like trying to reset itself, and you're hearing and you're feeling the pressure changes from the ANC going off and on, yeah, and they will just constantly keep restarting themselves, and that's what's happening with these.
But Apple will just call them up, AppleCare, or hop on a chat.
Except
and let
my
them know.
AppleCare on these expired in December, so Apple's quoted me. How much do these cost retail?
I don't remember.
I think they're $549.
That's insane.
You can, let's say they're $499. You can routinely get them for about $100 off, though.
Yeah.
I think they go down to $3. I've seen them as low as $399. Yeah.
Okay.
At $400, they're still fucking insane. If they worked, they'd be amazing at $400, but they're not. But the problem.
So the Apple
they quoted me a price out of warranty replacement, and it took me a long time to turn it off. It took me a long time to get the rep to admit what the price was, and you can even see in the screenshot I sent you. I said, okay, but what is the out of warranty replacement cost? And they're like, well, I see that it's $579 and change. To
get it swapped?
For an out-of-warranty replacement.
It's more than it is.
Yeah. So
Apple doesn't want you to swap them.
They reiterated once again, they said it multiple times throughout the chat because it was very hard for them to admit that information. They said you really should take it in since you're out of AppleCare. I actually did have AppleCare Plus on these.
Yeah.
Which if you buy them, please buy it.
Strongly
recommended. They didn't have the monthly where you can have it indefinitely. I wish they did.
Now they do.
But they said repeatedly,
go to the Genius
really
Bar.
should take these into an authorized service center. And I think they were telling me without telling me because of when these were probably manufactured, apparently October 2020 seems to be the cutoff. A lot of times when you have that issue where they're shorting out, Apple is replacing them. Supposedly, this is a rumor. Don't quote me. For free.
But
even if they're out of warranty.
But they like a repair center wants to see it.
A repair center wants to see it. They won't do any express replacement. They won't do mail-in service when you're out of AppleCare. You have to take it to a Genius Bar or any other Apple service center. Yeah.
Wild.
The ear cups. I love them. And I love the material that they use. They're actually super comfortable.
Yes, very.
There is one caveat. The caveat is that this material, it's like having your underwear on your sweaty balls after 24 hours of travel is the way it smells after a while.
They get a little stinky.
They fucking smell. They're disgusting. They're like genuinely disgusting. So Apple, if you look on Apple, the website, they actually have a support document on how to wash these. You know, soak them in detergent or whatever. Anyway, but I use like free and clear hypoallergenic laundry detergent, a little tiny amount, like less than a teaspoon, in hot water. Rub them together. Yeah. Let them air dry. Some people put these in their dishwasher on the top rack.
That's not enough. That's not enough.
No, I mean they do that with hats, and you're a hat expert. There's no way it doesn't. It does not. It's not. It doesn't work. You need agitation and you need multiple rinses. So the problem is like you can buy these cups. Once they're drying, you don't have anything. I bought some third-party ones. I've had some other ones sent to me, let's say, and a lot of times the different materials will wreak havoc with the ANC. You'll start to get a lot of feedback sound.
It just doesn't line up the same way as the official Apple ones.
I think it's about the reflections and all that stuff, and it does line up, but maybe the sensors don't work as well, or the microphones don't work as well, and of course, with ear cups, the material does matter. So I actually, this is probably this is the most frustrating Apple product I've ever owned,
even more than the HomePod.
The HomePod is HomePod. I have Sonos. It's amazing. Strongly recommended. I have a 30% discount code on Sonos if you want it.
First person to comment, I want the code.
Let me know. Also, they're going to come out with some new ones soon. I don't know anything. But anyway, this is the most frustrating Apple product I've ever owned because they have the potential, unlike the HomePod. The HomePod doesn't bother me as much because the HomePod. It's a product, period. It's limited. Mm-hmm. It's locked down. Yeah. There's a terrible interface for it. It sounds good. It's a good speaker.
It's a good speaker. And I'm willing to live with those
I'm not.
constraints to have this in my bedroom.
I'm not.
And listen to Steely Dan as I fall asleep.
My wife would divorce me. Because music for us is one of the most important things in our household. I have the reason why Sonos isn't the best sounding speaker. It is the best whole home speaker. By far. There's nothing that even
holistic experience.
There's nothing that even comes close. It's not the best app. It's not the best whole home speaker, like I said. But it is by far. The
sum of its parts.
There's nothing that even comes close. I've tried them all. Trust me, I've tried them all. And nothing even comes close. This is the product that, like, my family, my kids, my wife, we all love it. Music is central to us. Like, it's a huge, huge, huge thing for us. And there's no way. We tried having HomePod minis when that piece of shit, just a Siri, I call them Siri balls. Just so that we could interface with HomeKit. HomeKit is atrocious, so I got rid of them. Got rid of pretty much all my HomeKit stuff. I'm actually going to give Kyle some Yale locks that have HomeKit compatibility because my wife doesn't want them in the house anymore. And also we need new locks on the garage door. So she's just so frustrated with it. I can't. My marriage won't survive. If you want to have a marriage, don't own HomePods. They're awful. The people who love them even have complained about this, like that they're dying, that they wish there's nothing else in that price category. And I actually agree that if you can handle that mid-range scoop, which you don't notice it
until you compare it,
until you start comparing, and then when you compare, you're like, "Fuck, I was missing that much music." But the point is, I mean, you could probably EQ some of it out with a preset, and it'll probably
Yeah.
be fine. Like if you
a
listen,
little
set it up for your genre, you can make it work. It's still a
boost.
good speaker.
Yeah.
I think it's a good speaker, and I like that it's also a omnidirectional speaker, which is
Yes.
rare.
Yes.
But the problem is like, you know what? It would be amazing if I could, like, remember when we were recording outside in your parents' house and we were building Lego?
Yeah.
If I could have taken a HomePod and smacked it right in the middle of the table, it would have been awesome. But guess what? We can't even set this one up. We're literally advanced users. Some people would say experts on this stuff.
I forgot to update my phone.
It's not
That's on
that,
me.
but look, I tried it. I had it. It played music. We got it playing music. You saw it was connected. It wouldn't show up in my source list, and that's another thing. That the issues that I'm talking about, where the headphones cut out and all that.
Mostly connectivity. I was waiting for you to go off on the connectivity. Like
Well, we're getting there.
Okay, we're coming back to
this is now the
AirPods
next bullet
Max.
point. So when we talk about these, and another reason why these are so frustrating is, again, the HomePods, they suck, and it's a product that I can easily say is a 5 out of 10. I'll give it an 8, 7.5, 8 out of 10 for sound. As a smart speaker, a 2 out of 10. Serious garbage. HomeKit is garbage. As a holistic experience, like if you were going to use it for whole home audio or in stereo pairs, they sound amazing. They sound really good, shockingly. It fixes a lot of that mid-range issue. Strongly recommended if you're going to buy that piece of shit.
Get two of them.
Yeah, 2 of them. Pay $600 instead of the $300 that... Ugh. You get 4 Sonos speakers with no Siri in it for, Anyway, if you're going to do that, get the stereo pair. But again, you can discount. You can just forget it. It's not worth it. But the fact that these had all that potential is why they bother me. So the connection issues are the other thing. Now, I'm no stranger to AirPods.
Oh, I thought you were going to say I'm no stranger to connectivity issues.
Oh, or connectivity issues. I'm the king of connectivity issues. These are actually mine. These are AirPods 3.
Yes.
I've owned the AirPods 1. I've owned the 2nd generation AirPods. My daughter has them right now, so they're not on this table. These are the
Pro.
AirPods Pro 1st gen, AirPods Pro 2nd gen. They say I hate you on the case because that is my relationship with this product.
Which again,
And I don't
I'm
know if it's
surprised
telling me it hates me or I hate it.
I still can't believe that you bought these.
Why?
Just the way that you complained about these.
Yeah. No, I have to be able to put my money where my mouth is, right? But and also
your
I
complaint.
do use these, and we're gonna get to that in a minute. But connectivity is a big issue with Apple products. So these are Beats Fit Pro. These are these are what are they called? Power Beats Pros.
Power Beats.
I mean, I've had them since day one, and I still don't remember what they're called. These are the Beats Fit Pros. The problem is like it used to be this amazing experience with AirPods where it was like truly magical.
The 1st gen ones.
1st gens were the best in class.
That's what I still use, and
You could
am also like my HomePod, hoping that they don't completely die so that I can keep using them.
Yeah, I mean, these have probably hopefully served you well.
Yes, thank you for letting me borrow them. For
I'm
an
not going
extended period.
to use
That's
them
great.
really, so I mean, it doesn't really matter. I mean, they're editor property, let's call it.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is, you used to be able to. It was like truly magical because Bluetooth headphones, just random Bluetooth headphones, were such crap. Pairing them and then having to pair them to all your devices.
And if you remember before the AirPods, they were oftentimes connected
Yes,
in the back.
there was no syncing
Individual,
between them. They were truly, I mean, without exaggeration, a groundbreaking product. They were absolutely phenomenal.
They were Apple's like #1 selling product for 2 years,
If not still.
not still. But
I think they're one of the greatest products Apple has ever made. Period. Like hands down. They're incredible. They've really truly changed things. What happened is they started putting new chips in, like the H1 and all these other chipsets. The W1 was in the original ones, and then now they're on like the H1 or something H2. I don't fucking know. Whatever. It's
the
H something.
H1N1
Yeah.
bird flu.
And they started to try to make them do smarter and smarter things, like auto switching, which is the bane of my existence.
Just turn that off
Well, we'll get to that.
if you can.
And also just other smart functions where it wasn't just a matter of like you would pair them once and they would be on all your iCloud based devices. They started throwing up banners which is why I think these are hilarious to bring on an airplane. I'll get to that in a second.
Everybody's phone.
They throw up banners with any motion with anything that's in a case. The motion is based on proximity and when you open the lid.
Oh, not your AirPods Pro.
Exactly.
Got it. We got
Exactly.
it.
And it's based on when you open a lid. But with the AirPods Max,
They don't have
it's
a lid.
based
They
on
don't have an off button.
motion. So it's accelerometer based. So even if you tap them,
Oh, but I see your HomePod.
if you tap them at all, you're going to make noise. They will pop up banners. But also, they don't switch quickly anymore. They sometimes, and this is what people on clean Wi-Fi networks that have very few devices comparatively, that have very few Apple devices, you'll get that spinner and it'll wait. Or sometimes they'll say they're connected and then you tap to play and no sound comes out. And then you tap them again, then all of a sudden the check mark will jump back to the iPhone and you're like, what? It doesn't make any sense. So then you need to hard reset them often, right? And so there's a process. You hold down the button on the back or on the in
As you open them.
Yeah. And so you have to hold it. There's one level of reset that just like kind of like restarts them. Then there's another level of reset that will actually wipe them from your account. And then you also should remove them from your account if they don't do it all by themselves. That is in the Bluetooth menu. And then you say, forget this device. And the problem is now, so I need to hard reset these. So to do that, you hold these two buttons down. You need to hold it for 15 seconds and you'll see that there's a light that blinks amber and white. And
Okay, so you were having trouble connecting to this HomePod from your phone.
Yeah.
It has to do with the CMAC Wi-Fi network. I just remembered.
But I can connect to yours.
Yes, but the way that it does like peer-to-peer data that is different in this one. I was on a separate non-public Wi-Fi with my phone in this one when I set it up.
Are you able to see it?
So that's what I was about to. I don't think I will. And I think that's not an issue with the HomePod. I think that's the way the security is on the CMAC Wi-Fi.
But how come?
Oh, wait, never mind. I see it. Nope, something's just broken in your iCloud. All right, now I'm finally going to get to listen to Steely Dan on the HomePod.
All right.
We'll be back in just a second.
Several song-filled hours later.
No. So I'm gonna finish this thought before we finish with that. So I've hard reset these. Now they're popping up. So this is one, right? Let me unlock my phone. I'll count that as just one.
One what?
Tap. We'll get there.
Okay.
So set up Hey Siri. I don't ever want Hey Siri on. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but when you often restart or update your phone, it'll pop up the Siri prompt again. Sometimes it doesn't, and it'll turn on Hey Siri sometimes. Disgusting. It's crazy to me. So you often have to manage it. And then if you bypass Hey Siri, say I'll set it up later in settings, it'll give you a badge in settings until you try it again and then stop. And you can't delete that badge until you actually try again. It's awful. And they keep on turning it on by default. So
They want
I don't want Hey Siri ball on this. So I'm going to hit not now. That's 2 taps.
2 taps.
Announce calls and notifications.
Oh,
I can say
yeah.
yes or no, but I don't want to. So I'm going to hit customize. That's 3 taps.
And now you have to uncheck all of the things.
So turn these off.
I don't want calls. I don't want notifications.
Now, the next ones, the reason why these ignore these 2 is because they're time sensitive. And that's what a lot of app developers have been doing to sneak notifications in on your phone.
Time sensitive.
They send them in as time sensitive, which is bullshit. So we're at 4 taps. Keep going.
And I have to uncheck all of these?
Every single one.
Announce time-sensitive notifications. Oh, so it's not just general notifications. It's all these time-sensitive ones, too. You got a lot of apps. You got to delete some apps here. Sheesh.
I have apps, the manage my apps thing. When you don't use them, it'll delete them.
Yeah.
Which takes them off that list. So
But
these are all used.
You've used these.
It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Wow.
I might need to leave time-sensitive notifications on for Apple support because you're going to be chatting with them. quite a bit. Okay, all of these.
But
other
the
ones
problem
are
is, I do want that time sensitive notification. I do not want them coming up in my headphones telling me something. That's awful. That's awful. Don't ever do that. So,
oh no, the battery's going to die on them.
So that was, I'll tell you right now. So now it's done. Now they're connected. That's 36 taps that you just did.
Yep.
I know the number. now I need to go into settings. I need to go to my AirPods Max.
And tell them not to auto switch.
I need to turn off auto switching. So this is now 39 taps, 40, 41. But I also need to do it on my iPads, on my Mac.
So that it doesn't auto
on the
switch.
Apple
You have
TV,
to tell it on every single device.
on every single device, every single time
You reset
update them and you reset them rather. Yeah. Which is disgusting.
Theoretically, after updating, they should remember these.
They
settings.
should remember. I've had a couple of situations where they haven't. I'll give a pass on that.
Yeah.
I literally, and it gets me every time because I'll inevitably forget to do one device. So for example, I had my Mac, my MacBook Pro was just sitting there doing a process.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to a podcast or whatever, audiobook on my phone, and all I wanted to do was wake my Mac, and I pushed the number 2 on my Mac, and there was nothing playing on my Mac. It stole the audio from these and paired it with my Mac, and I saw the banner. I wanted to f***ing flip the table. It was insane. Like I've been listening to stuff on my iPad, and I'll be web browsing, and audio will play in the background or automatic, even though I have extensions to prevent that. And I'll go to a website, and it'll switch over to my phone in place, and it'll be silence.
Just to have nothing.
Just to have nothing. And it's like, or I'll play a song, especially with Apple Music connected. I've now switched back to Apple Music, which is long story.
Wow.
For another time. But I have Apple Music as my primary right now.
Yeah.
Which is horrific because it's fine. All of these things are fine. Well, this is not fine. This is egregious.
Spotify is going to go under. It's got the same problem as Netflix, that it's got its primary business is something that is an add-on to other businesses. Apple is just like Apple Music is an add-on. Our other,
that's like the Dropbox concept, but like Spotify has other things that they do, but then that's the whole point of the litigation, right?
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to avoid. But I do agree with you. If you make it an OS level thing, then you have a huge advantage.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're, like I had the issue where if I ever installed Apple Music, it would put it in my dock.
Yeah. You kept, I was just like, why do you keep deleting it? Stop deleting it. Just tuck it away in somewhere else.
No, because you can't tuck it away somewhere else because of exactly what I was getting at. I will be playing an audiobook. I will pause the audiobook.
And then try to play.
I've done this with the apps open and looking at them. I will pause the audiobook either on my phone or on the headphones.
Press the resume button.
I will do something, look at a different device, read something, whatever. I will click my headphones to play something.
Expecting it to return.
Yeah, and Apple Music out of nowhere will start up. And just like it's done during this very podcast where it played Beach House for some reason, it will start up and play a random song. That's not even in my library a lot of times.
Often just songs of innocence.
And I know, yeah, as Scott said, I know it's not in my library because you can see my library right now. It has been blitzed. I have very little things in my library.
Wow.
I blitzed my library because Apple Music destroyed my library from back in the day, from making the transition from iPod to iTunes and iPods to iPhones and Apple Music and streaming. And streaming, they destroyed it because they tried to match, and they did not match correctly, and then you couldn't get those files back. But the problem is like you had all these playlists and databases made, and it was just hundreds of hours of work for a lot of people, and it killed them. It destroyed it all.
Yes,
which is horrific. So
you blitzed your Apple Music library.
I blitzed my Apple Music library because that's the only way it's even tolerable. But now I know for sure that it's playing some fucking random song. Stuff. It'll play stuff like it's just out of the blue.
So this is where I found, hey, you commands do come in handy, because then you can specify, hey, you resume Overcast. And then Overcast will play.
Again, if you're on the app, if you have your phone in front of you, But these are wireless headphones. Ostensibly, you're not always going to be connected to
Directly
your phone.
next to
And the
you.
reason why I say that is because when you do ask this stupid to give you your to resume an app, you'll have to go back to your phone often and unlock it in order to authorize. You're still tethered to the phone.
So then, yeah, at that point, it's an authorization issue. You're getting locked out of.
But it's still 1,000 cuts. That's the problem.
Yeah.
These devices are 1,000 cuts. So why do I still have them? Well, I was married. I had a lot invested into it, and I do like them as headphones when they work.
And you've submitted
And,
a lot of
again-
feedback to Apple about them.
That's part of what makes
well.
me so passionate about them. I can't really get into some of it, but yes. Also, unlike the HomePod, I can use a Lightning to 3.5 millimeter
And
adapter
just use
with these
them.
and
as
just
a-
use them.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal, though. It's a huge deal.
You have an
because
aux port.
I have something. I have another way to interact with them. Also, I absolutely adore that they used physical controls compared to these fucking Sonys with touch controls, which I will say they've improved on the 5th gen.
You need something that is the in between the Sony WMX.
Yeah, I want somebody to
5,000.
knock these off.
Yeah.
So let's talk about my other headphones and
All
why
right.
what I these. I probably dinged up the wall, but
It's okay.
I have these Bose QC Buds 2nd gen. Don't buy these.
Nope.
They're fine. I give them like a 6.5, 7 out of 10. These are the original AirPods Pros. If they don't have the connection issues, they're very good.
But they don't sell those anymore.
They don't sell these anymore.
You buy some used on eBay. Mark,
They're good.
a friend of the show, Mark, will love that.
I used to use only Comply tips with them when they finally came out.
Yeah.
These are custom fit for the AirPods Pros, 1st gen and 2nd gen.
Cool.
And Comply is a company, COMPLY. They make the often considered best in class foam tips for headphones.
Squishy.
But because Apple did not use industry standard stems, they use these like little clip-on things, which are really nice actually. You can only get ones that are like weird in that they don't offer the standard, sorry about the mic again, they don't offer the standard Comply experience where you have a standard stem like a 400 size or what have you. You have to use everybody who's made third-party ear tips for the AirPods Pros, they have to make some severe compromises because there's not enough meat, foam available to actually click it in. So these are better, and they stay in better than the stock tips. I'll talk about the stock tips in a second, but they are nowhere near as comfortable. But for people who can't get them to fit, these are your best alternative for AirPods Pros and AirPods Pros 2. However, for my ears, Apple on the 2nd generation AirPods Pros, you can tell because the little case, they have the lanyard loop and it has a little speaker in it. And also, I hate you. It's also a little thicker. They came out with extra small tips for the AirPods Pro 2nd gen. They ship with them. I have really small ear holes. And these actually fit well enough. They've crossed the threshold.
The extra small size?
Yes, for my ears, they've crossed the threshold where they're not so annoying and they fall out and they stay in well enough to where I actually am not using Comply tips anymore.
Wow.
They're still better if you really want them to stay in. Like I don't work out with these.
Yeah.
So that's good. And there's another reason why I use them is because I often will wear them to sleep despite my sleep headphones. But Apple's, the way they design these silicone tips is excellent because
The extra small, or
all of them.
All of them?
They mushroom out. And the silicone itself that contacts your ear is floating. So the AirPods actually are floating in your ear canal. And as a result, they are extremely comfortable for long-term wear. Whereas with foam tips,
They're just pushing out.
They are constantly pushing out, which if they're good tips like the Comply ones, that's fine.
Shouldn't hurt.
But I wear headphones without exaggeration, sometimes 24 hours a day. Okay, this is not an exaggeration. People who know
I've seen it.
I
I've seen it.
literally have all these, and I use all of them, even the Bose ones.
You were like, bring the headphones you use. And I just didn't bring my first gen AirPods because I thought it was redundant. And there's just 2 sets of headphones sitting in front of me.
True. The It's actually a little disingenuous because I don't use these
First
now that I have the
generation.
second gen ones.
Yeah.
The second gen ones are a leap. They're a leap in plosives. They're a leap in sound. They're a leap in UI because you can adjust volume on them now.
Right.
That's huge. And I do appreciate the case, which has Find My support, which does not work well. I'll get into that some other time too, because that's another bullet point. But anyway,
It's a big bullet point.
it's it's ridiculous. Like it doesn't work the way it's supposed to often. But I appreciate that it has it. They are absolutely great headphones. There's more battery life. The first gens I complained about a lot. They also changed the ANC over time in them. I noticed it
through firmware updates.
I noticed it early. Nobody ever complained about it until Apple just like did a firmware update to say that where people started actually noticing ANC changes.
Yeah.
And I got I was vindicated for that as well. So it's just the same thing as like the spoken word on those. I'm not pulling this out of my ass. I obviously have a lot of experience with these.
Out of his ears.
Yeah. So original AirPods Pro were good. Current AirPods Pro, if they stay connected, I would put them in the excellent category.
Wow.
These are an excellent product. They sound way better than the original ones. The ANC still is mediocre. They keep screwing with it. They also, on the AirPods Max, the ANC was great. It's still mediocre. It's gone back to mediocre. Transparency, which is where you can hear more of the world around you.
The microphones pick it up and then feed it
Yeah.
into your...
On all Apple devices that support transparency, I would say Apple has the best-in-class transparency mode, with caveats as well. So that's those. So then the Bose, the QC Buds, these are actually
It's at
not
6.5 out of 10.
6.5 out of 10 for a number of reasons. I had the first gens of these. They died. That's why they're not on this table anymore. Otherwise, I would still have them. They started doing this thing where they'd cycle on and off in my ears, just like the AirPods Max. It could be because I wore them in the shower. I wear all these in the shower. Not these, actually, because...
Those are for sleep.
Yeah. These have like a wonky fit system.
Yeah.
You get these like weird wings and they have this and they're gross. And you kind of like put them on similar to the way you'd put on the Beats Fit Pros. They're very comfortable. Very comfortable.
Really?
They just have a little bit of a wonky fit. The case is USB-C, extra points for that. They took away Qi charging on the case, and that is a huge thing that I love. That's part of what keeps me using the AirPods Pros. Otherwise,
you just slap it on your...
yeah, because
Charger
I have the
roll out
massive charging
Mac.
array. No, I have this like modular one that Apple stores sell. I can't remember who makes it.
Yeah.
Somebody makes it. I don't remember who makes it. Doesn't matter. But
Link in
you
the
can no
doobly-doo.
longer do that. The old ones had it. These took it away. They also
now you got
completely
it.
changed the case, increased the battery life. ANC is still good, very good, better than these. I actually think they're identical out of the box, and so much so to the point where I've postulated that Apple is paying to license Bose ANC. They have the same behavior as well.
They act the same way around similar
Around
sounds.
situations that are difficult for ANC. For example, driving in cars. Not that you should do that when you're driving, but if you're a passenger in the car and you have ANC on, you will hear some weird happening
With the change of
low
pressure
end
in the
and changes
cab.
of pressure, and then trying to catch up with all the different noises. Especially if you don't have anything else playing, you'll start hearing pops in your ear and stuff. These do it in exactly the same way. But what puts the Bose ANC above the AirPods Pros is the fact that you can control it. You can say, I don't want so much of it. And you can actually...
There's levels of it.
Levels, Jerry. And then, yeah.
Wow.
And then also these have like little slidey
controls.
volume stuff too. So these are good. These are fine. If you're a Bose fan, stick with it. It's fine. No, you can't go wrong. Power Beats Pros. I still really like these. Actually,
These are like 3 years old now, right?
yeah, but
They've been out for a while.
I've had 5 pairs of these, including the ones that my wife has, because I like them so much, and I wore them in the shower and in the pool.
They're not
I actually have gone underwater in
not
this
meant
exact pair.
for that.
They're not meant for it, but they've held up, and that's part of what I like about them so much. They have this gigantic case that's like a softball.
It's like you're proposing to your wife.
Yeah, exactly. And you throw them in there, but they have this. They also have standard tips, like all the Beats stuff, and they
So
have
regular comply foam.
yeah, and then you put them on,
replacements.
and a lot of people don't realize that you can actually adjust this, and
It's like Gumby.
Yep, it's like Gumby, and you put them on, and they stay on. That's the killer feature. That's the other thing is they have volume rockers that are independent on each device, so you don't have to do any weird tap and hold like you do with this, or sliding weird gestures.
I thought you were going to say, so I could turn up my right ear without turning up
Yeah,
my left ear.
we wondered if early on if you could do that, if there was a setting for it. It would be cool if it was an accessibility setting to offset differences in hearing on either ear. I don't know, to my knowledge, that isn't a setting. These early on had issues where the pins to charge would get flattened in the case.
Yeah, they don't get
so they wouldn't charge.
lose touch.
However, I love these. These don't have ANC, so that's actually a plus for a lot of fitness things, especially if you're riding, like, let's say, a bike outside.
Yeah.
These are great. And they have the benefit of being older, so they don't have as many of the connection issues as the other ones. Pardon me, but you still have to go through all this stupid bull.
Yeah.
Beats Fit Pros, also in the excellent category. I actually prefer these over the AirPods Pros.
Wow.
I would strongly recommend you go Beats Fit Pro if you can. A couple of reasons. USB-C. They don't have Qi, so that's a point against them.
But also these do not have cheap
But
charging.
honestly, it's like a reel-to-reel cassette. Like, it's gigantic. It's just too big. And also these have lightning, which is a plus or minus for depending on what your situation is. But to
You're
me,
already on
it's
an
always a
iPhone.
minus.
Yeah.
But the iPhone has Qi.
Yeah.
So you don't have to have it. USB-C though. Also weirdly, the case is flimsy.
Yeah.
It's like a flimsy product.
Yeah.
It's weird. We were surprised
I remember
because all of these cases, every single one of even the Bose one,
has a
these
nice
cases, they're just so
substantial.
nice, you know?
Yeah.
And they're just,
The original AirPods
Yeah.
set a precedent for good, clacky cases.
yeah. These have these little wing tips that go in this contour in your ear, the anti-helix, I think that's called.
Oh.
And they also take standard tips. They have excellent ANC because
So you've put comply tips on these as well?
yeah, I've put comply tips on there, and that actually corresponds heavily to how good the ANC is. It's better than the AirPods, and they don't seem contrast to the AirPods and AirPods Max, AirPods Pros and AirPods Max. They don't seem to be screwing with it as much with every firmware update.
Oh.
And
it's not the same team tweaking that
Yeah.
software.
Also, these have way longer battery life than even the AirPods Pro 2s.
Yeah, they got a nice little
Yep.
heft to them.
Physical controls, which is a huge benefit. Then you don't have to deal with fiddly stems. You can just tap your ear. There's also a feature where you can actually turn it on so that you can tap and hold, and it'll increase the volume. Tap and hold, decrease the volume. These are excellent. They're I think by far the best fitness headphones you can buy. That's part of why I own these. When really, if I could I'd be fine throwing all these away. Like if I had to, like all these.
Really?
And I would just have this and this.
Okay, so the Beats, what are these ones? The
Beats Fit Pros.
Fit Pros, and
Excellent. They're better than the AirPods Pros too, especially if you want headphones for working out. They last longer, better waterproof, better ANC, more battery. USB-C, if that's a thing for you, it is a bigger case. That's the only difference.
and no Qi charging.
No Qi charging, which sucks.
Okay, and the Sony.
WF-1000 XM4.
Okay.
So the 4th gen. So these are so good, I bought them twice. These are my favorite headphones on this table. They are so good for what they are and for their price and for their versatility.
What are they going for about
You can
these days?
just like the AirPods and the Beats Fit Pros, and especially the Beats products, you can get often for $50+ off.
Yeah.
These often go on sale. The cheapest I've seen them is $149. No, I'm going to say $180. And
Still
the most
under
expensive
$200.
is $279.
Wow.
That's what they go for. Worth every penny. Why? You've been to Amsterdam with me. You've been on
Correct.
long flights with
Yes.
me. 13 hours-ish? 11 to 13 hours?
11, yeah.
And I have used these lasted the whole time.
True. Yeah,
You
you
know?
didn't have to change them out.
And well, technically I did, because when I go to the bathroom,
You
I
charge
stick
them a
them in
little bit.
here, and because they top off so quickly, I never noticed, and there was no friction from it, Or if
Yeah.
I wanted to just eat for 10
Pop
minutes,
them out.
then they're all of a sudden they're almost fully charged, which was amazing. But I never You're carrying these gigantic things on.
And I'd
flights.
often try to talk to you, and you'd be like, "I can't hear you."
I can't hear a word you're saying because the ANC on these is astoundingly good.
Yeah, Sony's still
it's the best
top
on
of the
this
tier.
entire table. Bose, Apple, by far. Also, they sound great. That's another thing, and they keep on firmware updating. For example, these were just updated. I think the most recent firmware update was a few months ago, and they have added the ability to simultaneously pair to two devices. I don't use that feature, but the fact that they added that feature to this.
So when you say simultaneous
So for example,
repair to your iPhone and your iPad,
at the same time, they'll stay persistently connected, as opposed to auto switching.
now I still want to understand if you've got them persistently dual connected to your iPhone and your iPad. You hit play on something on your iPhone, and then it's still running, and you go over to your iPad and you hit play on the iPad. Are you hearing the
No.
mixture of two sounds?
No.
What is happening there?
It works a million times better than auto switching because it works based on intentionality. If I'm playing something on my iPhone,
Yeah.
even if I have it simultaneously paired to my iPad, it will never steal the session from my iPhone unless I pause my iPhone and resume playback on the iPad.
Okay.
It will never, ever do that, which is what makes auto switching on iOS, on Apple stuff, maddening. And the fact that it's by default on all devices is just it's twisting the fucking knife.
Yep. We've cut.
Oh, it's so bad.
I know you could do a whole
It makes me sick.
hour on just that. Let's keep going. I
so
want to know
frustrating.
the good things about the Sonys.
So they updated it, which is cool. It's like you never buy a product because you are banking on the fact that they're going to update it and make it better later on. But they did make
Don't
it
do
better,
that, yeah.
which is super cool because that's usually a feature that they reserve for the next generation version.
Right. Yeah. They wouldn't just.
Well, they did it on
update the 5th gen over the ear headphones.
Yeah, so these came with that. I don't remember if the 4th gen did. I feel like they did. I know my 3rd gen ones didn't. I didn't have the
get that
4th
as
gen.
an
I did have the
update.
3rd gen. I hated the 3rd gen of these, though. We'll talk about those in a minute. So these also accept standard tips.
Cool.
The battery lasts forever.
So you could swap the comply tips from your Beats to these.
Yeah, I think they're all 400 size, oddly enough, even though I
Nice.
label them. Yeah, and the sound is excellent. The battery is it just blows my mind because the case is small,
Right.
It's
It's a little bit bigger than the
and
AirPods
it's bigger,
Pro,
and I will
but
say it's bigger where it matters. For example, the little coin pocket in your pants.
Yeah.
These can fit, but they will pop out.
Oh.
Whereas these will stay. So
Yeah.
these are if you want a coin pocket headphones, get AirPods Pros 2 or AirPods 3. By the way, we'll talk about those in a sec.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
pretty good. USB-C,
Yes.
Qi charging.
Ooh.
They also work on my weird.
Is it the back of it or is it the bottom?
bottom.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, which is good because it actually works better because on some of my weird travel chargers,
Your space is.
one has a recess specific for AirPods.
Yeah.
And other stuff that works with Qi charging
Doesn't quite fit.
doesn't go. But this barely.
This is too flat.
This will connect even on the AirPods Scoop. Yeah.
Nice.
So that's nice. But I love these. They sound excellent. They sound better than basically anything on this table. I can't vouch for those.
Yeah, you haven't
They
spent
definitely
much
sound better
time.
than the HomePod. But the AirPods Max are competitive too. Actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the difference is I can make these sound however I want. I can have custom EQ profiles. I can have that mid-range scoop if that's what I prefer. There's lots of presets, but then I could literally change. It's got a 5-band EQ. No, it's an 8-band EQ. You would think it would be 10, but I think it's 8-band EQ. I can change those frequencies manually and save that as a custom preset. And I have 2 custom presets. Also, it supports 360 audio, not Dolby, like Atmos, which Sony does, which I don't really give about because it's mostly crap anyway on music.
Well, okay, that was you have 2 sets of these headphones, and you were still talking about the custom EQs that you've saved. Is it to the app, and then the app connects to whatever headphones you're on, or is it per set?
No, it's per device.
So you'd have to build your curve twice.
Well, it saves my curves. So that's what you meant by to the app. I thought you meant like, do I need to deal with the app to deal with it each time? No. The app remembers my presets on my profile, and I can just
when you
select
connect the
it for this.
headphones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, so the big magical thing about Apple headphones was that you could switch them quickly,
Sure.
right? It was awesome.
The original AirPods.
Yeah.
You would hop into your Bluetooth
Right.
menu in the settings, or even just the drop down list in the control center.
Correct.
And you could just turn them on, turn them off, or switch to something else.
Right.
Yes.
That's no longer a deal breaker because Sony, Bose in this new generation has solved this problem. It used to be that, and I actually saw somebody who was a very experienced YouTuber incorrectly saying that he had to repair these every time on every new device,
Oh.
which is incorrect. You don't even need to go into any app or like put them in a weird, like I'm waiting mode.
Pairing mode, yeah.
You don't need to do any of that. You literally just select them in your Bluetooth source list. You don't have to do anything special. I go into control center. I tap and hold the Bluetooth button. It pops up my quick list. I scroll, tap them. They
And you're connected.
instantly connect.
Cool.
And I can go to my iPad, tap them. They instantly connect. Now, to build that list, I did have to pair them each time on my iPad, on each iPad once. You know,
So the first time-
these will remember your devices as a big list, as a database.
Cool.
So the first time I do have to pair them, but they also have another cool thing. Unlike every pair of headphones or earbuds on this table, these are 100% all case dependent.
Yes.
These will pair without the case, they have nothing to do with the case.
The case just charges
The case is just a charging place. To pair them to any device, you hold both at the same time for 6 seconds. They pop up, you tap, they're paired on any device. And then it remembers that device forever.
Cool.
So I instantly just switch. It's
Similar to the original AirPods.
similar to the original AirPods. And they switch faster than Apple. I've done many tests, and I send screen recordings, jumping from one device to the other way quicker than you could ever, even with the magic of iCloud switching, jumping from every other device that I have with no banner pop-ups, no proximity things like I was talking about with the AirPods Max. The reason why I like having them on the airplane is because I'll take them out.
And everybody's
I
phone.
can watch people on their iPads, like sitting near me. I will interrupt their session with a banner, just like you had, that says not your AirPods Max.
Yep.
I'm literally, it's like I'm that asshole ejaculating my headphones all over their devices while they're in a movie watching session on an airplane.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me that's even possible. It's disgusting. Why does that banner need to exist? It's nice though when you're sitting with your friend.
Hey,
and
listen
you
to
want to
this.
listen together, and you can do a share audio. It's a cool feature. It's an awesome feature. Share audio.
But everybody on the plane does not want to share audio with you.
Yeah. So
Last but not least.
these are excellent. Now, I could live with only having these. I would say there's one drawback to them. The drawback is that for working out, they're not nearly as comfortable for long-term wear, which is why I supplement with these. This is like the best 1-2 punch if you're an active person and if you want just the best all-around headphones.
Cool.
Strongly recommended.
So the Sony crazy long name version 4
WF-1000 XM4
and the Beat Fit
Pros.
Pros.
New colors
Beats
coming out
Fit
soon,
Pros. Oh,
supposedly.
supposedly.
I have 2 because I'm afraid one will die. And they were super cheap, so I bought them. And also, yeah, I just love these. They're so good. It's a great product. I had the 3rd generation of these. These are the WH-1000 XM5s. WH wireless headphones, 1000, which is the series, X for whatever reason, Mark IV, Mark V, Mark III. That's the Sony convention. Doesn't make any. It's hard to remember. There, it's asinine. I don't know what the F stands for. Fidelity? I don't know. But these are the Mark IVs. These are the Mark Vs. I had the Mark IIIs. I hated them. I did like that they folded into themselves in a much smaller case
For the version 3.
Yeah, but the cups, like the AirPods, were made of metal. So you'd be like leaning up against something, and you'd turn, and you'd get that scratchy metal feeling.
Yeah,
you do get those on. I'm pointing to the floor because that's where those belong. The AirPods Max, you do get that feeling in those, but because they're flush and best in class comfort, in my opinion, on any headphones.
The trade off is fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's not true best in class comfort, because I think Bose QCs are comfortable.
Yes.
The Bose 700s are incredibly
Comfort
comfortable.
is in the name.
It's literally, but you know, these are comfortable. QC's in the name, comfort's in the name. They are also the Bowers and Wilkins PX7s or whatever they are. Those are super comfortable too. So these, I think, are a step back in the comfort in terms of the positioning of the ear cup on your on your head, relative to my 3rd gen ones. Brett, your brother has the 3rd gen ones now.
He does.
He likes them. I ended up getting the 5th gen, keeping them because these suck so much, and they're so maddening. And these bring to the table a lot of the benefits that these have, including whacking the microphone again. But I actually think they're a worse experience than these, because they have touch controls.
Yeah.
They do have buttons, and they actually have a button that you can use to launch Spotify automatically, which doesn't really work on iPhones because you still need to unlock your phone.
Yeah.
Which, you know, security, whatever. I'll take it. They have a button for ANC. You can actually turn them on and off, which is weird. I know, right?
ANC or the whole headphone?
The whole headphones. There's a way
headphone
to
set.
turn these on and off.
Wow. Why would you ever want to turn them off?
I don't know, Kyle.
You put them on and you never take them off.
Also, the battery lasts literally like double the AirPods Max. I have charged these so seldom, just in general, because of how long the battery lasts. Also, because they didn't do the swappy little foldy thing, they've now switched to a much lighter band. And in general, they're lighter, and the cups aren't made of metal anymore. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought these because that was such a big deal. The thing I don't like about wearing them the most is the ear cups relative to your head. They're very shallow, so your ears touch the foam.
Yeah.
That's actually in the design, but I actually find that they're less comfortable than most. The ear ANC is excellent. I actually find it's not as good as these because often you'll be wearing glasses, sunglasses, or hat, which means you break the seal a little bit. And because you break the seal, you harm the ANC. AirPods Max mesh around that better. So they're able to maintain it better. But still, these are better headphones in every conceivable way. And they're way cheaper.
Yep.
And USB-C. And the ANC is still far better than the AirPods Max.
And still have an aux port. You can still plug in your source material if it's wired.
You can still plug in. You can see the port. And, you know, another thing about these headphones, if you have any device that's not an Apple device and you want to use them, just like the fucking HomePod, we tried to use it. We tried to do a fun test. We couldn't even get it to connect. We couldn't use it in any other way other than the one narrow, expensive, inelastic way that it's designed to be used, user hostile way. Assuming it even lasts, assuming you could even get it started up or have to update your 18 devices to make it work, which we still haven't been able to do. Actually, we just did. I stand corrected. That's right. Those are, you know, when you pair AirPods to a non-Apple device, you lose all the features. You don't get to control ANC. You get some button control, but you don't get like all the spatial audio. You don't get all the cool stuff, and they become very dumb. And then you start to see very quickly exactly how limited these are and how much you're paying for software-based experience
to be
that
in that
often
ecosystem.
is failing.
Yeah.
It takes away the magic really quickly, kind of like when you turned off the bass, when you lowered the bass on this, and all of a sudden it sounded like a HomePod Mini.
Yeah.
It takes away the magic really quickly, and it shows exactly what they're trying to hide by throwing that bass off a surface. These don't hide anything. These don't hide anything. These don't hide anything. I'll talk about my sleep headphones. Then I'm done.
All right.
I swear to you.
And then I get to have a turn.
I mean, come on. Like,
I mean, yeah, I don't have anything to update from 2022, so that's
Like-
this is the big thing.
so I sleep with headphones.
Last time we talked about headphones, you had these Bose ones. They were still pretty new to you.
Yeah, and I still love them. I still think they're so refined and so smart that I love them. They have one big ass limitation though, and which is why I own these still, which is the Bose. I don't know. They're called Sound Sleep 2. I don't know what they're called. They're sleep.
I just love the way that thing opens.
Yeah, maybe they have the name of them. Do you remember what these are called?
Nope.
These are They're the second generation of the Bose Sleepy headphones. They don't connect to Bluetooth at all. You can't play any of your own music on there.
They're not for listening to what you want to listen to.
They're not.
Unless what you want to listen to
is the prefab sleep sounds that they have.
white noise.
So,
You know what white noise is?
Yeah.
Noise for white people to go to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. And have you read White Noise? You probably watched the movie.
I watched the movie.
How
that
was it?
was weird.
Okay, yeah. There was a
We'll do it.
postmodern movie. We should do a review.
We need to do our movies of 20. It's already February, but we need to do our movies of 2022.
We need our movies of the pandemic. I don't know.
Before the Oscars.
Okay, so there's a couple things I like about these. First of all, as a sleep experience, I think they are so brilliantly designed. We talked about this before, but like imagine it's on your bedside, and you reach over, and it doesn't slip. Like it's got a grippy little feel. These don't, right? You push this. There's no LEDs firing at your face on the side of the case, right?
Did you fire up?
They
And
fire
but they're
up,
very
but they're
dim.
super gentle and super dim.
I did see. Oh yeah, it's a pulse width modulation dimming. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh yeah, it's freaking me out.
Sorry to point that. As soon as someone
You
see it
can't
or you point it
unsee.
out,
You can't unsee it.
can't
It's
unsee it.
brutal.
Just don't move them.
That's another thing. So also these are the most incredible,
They're so
comfortable.
not goopy sticky, but like
The same thing about
malleable.
that floating silicone, like we talked about with Apple, and the way they sit in your ears is like they're just magical. They're incredibly, incredibly comfortable. They come with multiple different ear wing tips and multiple different, with different tip sizes. They're so comfortable, and also the magnets work really well. So like if I throw
Again,
them
in the middle of the night,
they just line up, and it makes it a lot easier to put them in at night. There's other things. The batteries on these are nickel metal hydride.
Mm-hmm.
And the benefit of that is they won't burn your face in your head.
They don't get hot.
Set you on fire and like a lithium battery in your ear overnight when you're sleeping. They also have,
which also explains why they like don't support Bluetooth, because it's not going to have as much power to drive.
They wouldn't last the whole night.
Yeah.
Touch the microphone again. They last enough for me to go to sleep and wake up. They often are still working. They stay in my ears really well, which is a plus or a minus for some people. Like Mark, I know Mark, friend of the show, Mark of the Marchive. He wants the headphones to fall out when well, because so you can hear things. His alarm, for example.
Yeah.
These it's asinine to buy headphones that are just like a sleep sound machine, but the sounds that they have are so fucking good.
Good stuff.
They are. I've listened to so many sleep sound machines. I have the Calm app and all the other stupid apps, stuff you could put on your radios, your stereos, like YouTube stuff, stuff in all the music services. I've had literally every music service. Even in Audible, they have some.
Oh, wow.
They have some. They're everywhere. And I've listened to a lot of the sleep sound machines. These are by far the best quality recordings I've ever heard.
Are they like binaural audio too?
Yes, and also they do ones that because these don't have ANC, they did that on purpose because they don't want you to die. So the same thing with the battery, they want you to be able to hear stuff, and they have specific ones that have ANC built into the frequencies of the audio instead
to cancel out certain
frequencies, which is something I forgot to mention about these, which I'll talk about in a second. To cancel out certain frequencies that are common for sleep. Mm-hmm. And they tell you when you're increasing the volume, they say, if you go higher than this, you're going to be deaf, basically. Please be careful because it's that good. These are absolutely phenomenal.
Don't miss the fire
I
alarm,
give
smoke
these-
alarm.
Unless you really want, I mean, as a universal product for everybody who doesn't have another $250 to spend on random shit,
Just to help go to sleep.
just to help. Which I mean, your sleep is super important. But
Yes.
as they stand by themselves, these are a 10 out of 10.
Man.
I can't believe it. If you want Bluetooth, they're a 1 out of 10.
Yeah, no Bluetooth.
You know what does have Bluetooth though? The Anker Soundcore A22s.
I like that it looks like the B, but it's a D.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like the Beats B, but it's the other direction.
Yeah, and they put the little accent on that. Okay, so Anker makes sleep headphones, and they tried to copy Bose in some key ways.
Does it also slide
It
open?
slides open.
Oh, cute.
Even the design is very similar.
Oh, yeah.
It's not as refined. The quality of the materials isn't
Sure.
as refined. It's not as comfortable. They are smaller in your ear, which might be a plus for some, but they're still very, very, very comfortable.
And they have Bluetooth.
And they have Bluetooth. Now, they have charging lights
The face
and
out
they are extremely bright.
in the middle of the night.
Also, when you first plug it in, I kid you not, Kyle, they're sadistic. They f***ing blink. So it's like you live like by a neon sign in like Manhattan. And it's like buzzing in your face. It's psychotic. But
Bink, bink.
it does stop after a while, but it's still like
For a
such
minute
slap
or
in
two.
the face. I can't believe it.
Sleep headphones that
Right.
annoying LED lights.
They do have Bluetooth connection. They sound like
Mm.
but they're good enough for sleep.
And is it like the Bose? They also have preloaded.
Precisely. And we'll talk about a little bit about that with the Bose as well. These, unlike every other Bluetooth headphone on this, these don't count. These do not have the feature where I can just select them from my Bluetooth menu and they'll jump over.
Connect, yeah.
These live and die by the case. In order to switch these, they have to be in blinky mode like they are right now. They're blinking. You have to hold that button for me to go to any other device.
Oh, yeah. They don't remember other devices. If you keep connecting to it to the same device,
Yeah.
it will remember that. But
Correct.
you can't hop between your iPhone and your iPad.
These also have they have accelerometer based controls like the original AirPods.
Oh.
So, but they don't work nearly as well as the original AirPods. So you actually need to whack your face pretty hard. You go and you got to get it like rapid, like dum, dum, and you feel you're jarring your brain. But they have it on the right side. If you double tap, it'll play, pause, and switch to Bluetooth. On the left side, if you double tap it, it will turn off Bluetooth and switch to whatever sound you had selected and stored on the headphones. Because like the Bose, these can live without your phone.
Yeah.
Which is another killer feature. I do not need to involve any device to use these except for setup.
The initial
And then
setup.
also if I want to change the sound that's on here, right, which most people don't. You find your sound, you're set.
Yeah.
And I have my sound. I have my
nice
sound.
Pavlov
Now,
sound to sleep.
when you want to know, it's just like listening to the HomePod and then comparing it to something that's more flat or at least is better EQ'd, and then realizing how much those rely on the scoop of the mids, you will know how bad these sound and how bad the recordings are comparatively.
Once you hop over to
are
the...
so fucking good. It's obscene. I mean, I want you to hear them. They're like amazing. It's ridiculous. Take them home.
No.
Just
I'm gonna get addicted to. I'm gonna get
clean
addicted to them.
You know, see, that's the thing. Like, people.
I'm gonna need them to fall asleep.
Feel free to make fun of me. Like, you won't. If you've traveled with this guy ever,
I can fall asleep anywhere.
Anywhere, anytime. This will just be like icing for him. But the quality of them is obscene. Like the sounds, the prefab sounds, they're fine. There's one I was able to settle on, but they mostly sound like and you can't get them low enough a lot of times, the volume.
Oh, it's too loud even
Sometimes
on the
they're
lowest.
a little too loud.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
But I do like them because they have Bluetooth.
Yeah.
They're way more comfortable to sleep with. If I don't have headphones to sleep in with like these, the reason why I will sleep in these is because they're not awful. And unlike the Beats, they're not sticking in my ears like this because
When you said these, you meant the AirPods Pros.
the AirPods Pro. Well, I also mean the AirPods 3s.
Okay. Sorry, just in case anyone's
Well,
only
it
listening.
matters because, like, for example, these they have
The Beats Fit
buttons,
Pros.
so you'll activate them if you turn on your side or if you bump them by mistake.
Yeah.
These have stem controls. You'll never accidentally activate them. And since they float in your ear on the silicone or on the fluoroelastomer, whatever the tips are made of,
Pretty.
they don't hurt your ears for sleeping with
comfy.
them
Yeah.
overnight. The AirPods 3s, they rest in your ears so they don't bother your ears. These AirPods, if I sleep with big full-size headphones on, I sleep with the AirPods Max because these have touch controls. You can disable them,
Sure.
thankfully.
But then you don't have controls.
But then you have no controls. And you're like, you roll over and you're like, plunk, 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 plunk. It's like touching the stuff. So there's another thing. I talked about
What was the thing about the...
Yeah, I talked about like the changes in the frequencies and like why that matters, like about the fancy frequency, special frequency sounds. These have you can change how the ANC works on these, but they have one killer feature, which is great for cycling, where you never really want to wear headphones when you're cycling, generally speaking, especially like where you don't have a developed bicycle network, and cycling infrastructure.
You need to be able to hear the things around you.
Yeah, because you will die. So it's just not a good idea. And even walking and stuff outside, especially in like
High traffic.
pedestrian, non-human designed, hostile
Places that prefer cars over people.
Yeah. These have a feature where you can tell the ANC to just block out wind noise and allow everything else in.
Cool.
So I can wear these cycling, still hear. In fact, I can hear traffic better
Because it's blocking wind noise.
because it's blocking wind noise, and it's also giving me more of those frequencies, kind of like transparency, but I don't have to hear the whole time.
Yeah.
Amazing. These are amazing. Beats Fit Pros, I use in transparency mode when I wear them for riding, and I obviously don't put the music up very high.
No.
And then it's like I use all of them. I mean, the minor exception is I have redundant pairs of these, but sometimes like I always keep one with me, and then the other one stays on my counter.
The Sony.
This is egregious. I would say I could easily eliminate these. I could eliminate the two AirPods. I could make a case for these, but really I could be real happy with this setup or even this setup, even if I had to. These are cheap. That's another benefit.
So by this setup, you mean the Sony earbuds, the Anchor Sleep Buds, and the Beats Fit Pros, or swapping the Anchor Sleep ones for the Bose Sleep ones.
These are like $130. These are $250. The Bose Sleepy ones versus the Anker Sleepy ones.
It's almost half the...
I mean, the Anker ones, if you just want a good sleep headphone, get them because they're fine. They're fine. They're not great. They're fine.
They'll help you fall asleep a little bit.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But best headphones... Probably, I mean, I own some fancy headphones. I have like electrostatics, I have magnetics, I have amazing dynamics, I have great headphone amplifiers. I'm a spoiled sound person, brat. Right? Can you imagine though if Sonos didn't work for me and like I went off the deep end with like home theater equipment? Like Sonos is so fucking good that I don't have to.
You're testing amplifiers and you're testing.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like when you find the one, like with Sonos stuff, then it's like crack, so you end up getting in every room. But when you find the one, you really don't need anything else.
Yeah.
Or you could have wired headphones. I mean, there's lots of good ones for there. Speaking of which, you have wired headphones that I found out had Bluetooth in them.
Yeah, I thought I told you that. So yeah,
I was blown away.
I talked about these last year. I have no updates on headphones. I'm still very happy with my Audio-Technica What are these? The M50Xs, and they're the X's because they do have Bluetooth built in. I can flip this switch. They turn on. Again,
a physical control
and physical volume up and down and pause, resume buttons.
Physical body volume up and down. Killer feature.
Again, my only complaint about these headphones is charging them is micro USB instead of USB-C. They should have done USB-C.
It's awful.
I can plug them in. It came with a cable with an inline microphone, so I can take calls on them. This is if I'm doing video calls from home. This is what I'm using. And
they sound great. I've had many calls with him wearing them.
But So this is great, but there is now an M50 SH something where they are still wired headphones, and then a mic comes out of the headphone, and it's got that big Audio-Technica capsule. It's the same capsule that's in the back of their nicer shotgun microphones. It's the same capsule in some of their big
Dynamics. They put in it's the same capsule as the 2100, right?
Yeah. That's the word the 2100.
AT 2100.
Yeah.
20,
ATH 20.
yeah,
I don't know, something like that. No,
these are like
these are ATH because they're headphones. Maybe ATM. I don't know.
I think it's just
but
AT.
it's the 2100 capsule, and then the cable that comes out of it has a headphone end and then an XLR end, and then they also have a second version where the cable comes out and it's USB-C. I hope it's USB-C. I can't remember. I saw that it was USB and I said, I'm not interested. I want the XLR one. So CMAC has ordered 2 sets of those. We're hopefully going to use them as announcer headphones for sports. We have a ClearComm system that we've been using, but the ClearComm system is kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm hoping that these headphones will be a simple setup. ClearComm is, it's for intercom purposes and it's great at intercom stuff, but it's very expensive and it's kind of, it's broadcast equipment, whereas I wanted something that could be a little more consumer lined.
So the ATH M50s, and
so the standard ones that aren't Bluetooth are just the M50.
They're very good if you do sound editing and stuff like that. They're very neutral. They sound fine. I think these are great headphones, personally, especially
at the price
and
point.
The fact that they had Bluetooth, and I had no idea.
The Bluetooth was extra. It was $200 or $250 to have.
But still, it's really
models.
surprised me that you had that flexibility. I mean, you're using them plugged in most of the time.
I am. I'm actually worried about the battery in them because I use the Bluetooth functionality so infrequently.
So I mean, just keep the battery at 40% and you'll be fine.
Should be fine. Yeah.
Which be nice if you could figure out.
You could turn these off.
Yeah. Because they're always my cat.
Max.
I'll be down. They'll be upstairs in my room, hanging on my drawer.
Yeah, a cat will bat at it.
A cat will touch it or rub up against the drawer or something.
Its tail.
And then I will be downstairs on my iPad, and I'll get a banner.
So what is this?
Frustrating.
I mean, I feel like we've been complaining about Apple quite a bit, and the state of Apple's wireless accessories
and audio, just the audio,
and audio in general. Despite them having that crazy sound room somewhere,
they've got an incredible anechoic chamber that's just, it looks like
Batcave
Cerebro
for the X-Men.
It's amazing.
I will say, I think today, February 2023, Apple has really done a great job with the new MacBooks.
Excellent.
Probably the Mac Minis. I'm hopefully going to use the new M2 Mac Mini soon at CMAC.
This is truly the best Macs have ever been.
Yes,
at least in my opinion.
But it feels like the sound department and the wireless department
and the services and peripherals, I think, are the biggest hiccups.
Are getting in the way of that. Which brings me to the point that there are rumors that Apple wants, kind of full stack on the iPhone. They want to make their own wireless chips. And all of these things that I've seen you experience, and I've experienced a little bit, but not nearly as much as you have, makes me worried that Apple wants to make their own,
It's a combo chip. They want to make a chip that's Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and cellular all in one.
Yeah.
Right? And I think I have the same reason I wouldn't buy an Apple car.
Needs to talk to a lot of things.
It's genuinely scary.
Yeah.
I think CarPlay is a great experience.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it lots of room for improvement, but it really takes a lot of the friction away from using other, various car interfaces. My car doesn't support it. It's like one of the only ones on Earth.
Lauren's
but it doesn't bother me.
And it
doesn't bother me.
It's excellent.
It doesn't bother me on my car, but on every other car, it bothers me a lot. I wouldn't buy it.
That Ford Microsoft interface that was out for many years, that was scary.
Sync. They called it Sync.
Oh, yeah, Microsoft Sync.
Yeah, it was terrible. And CarPlay is, I think, genuinely excellent. But so that's a great thing.
And CarPlay 2 is coming. I'd be very interested to see it.
Yeah, and then they're going to have
some new cars.
So theoretically, they'll also have interfaces for your whole dash.
Yeah.
It's disconcerting because if you can't get like headphone switching right, or connecting to a HomePod, or like Apple was synonymous with like immense quality
and ease of use. Yeah.
Super low friction. Like that's gone. That's just, that story to me is completely just gone. Like it's not even part of their story anymore. Let alone that it's like they used to be all about the intersection of the technology and the liberal arts. That's gone. That's no longer part of their story. They don't even talk in that language anymore at all.
Oh,
they're very much about human rights, which they ostensibly, that's great. Privacy is part of their story now. If they actually honor it, great.
Yeah.
That's
when it
whether
works,
they honor it is different.
When it works, great. Yeah.
But also what happens is like when you create every part of the device, the vertical stack, right? It is good from the perspective of the business. It makes it difficult from the perspective of like when these phones, they become commodities, right? So everybody has one. So the only places for Apple to expand in any way is for them to maintain that growth is to start building in services, right? To start adding these little peripheral devices, wearables and stuff. The Apple Watches have been fairly successful.
But also the services that have ongoing subscription fees.
Yeah. So I pay for Apple One, which is $30 a month. I pay an additional $10 for
an extra
additional 2 terabytes, which I just bumped up to the limit of that again. So I needed to dump everything out. I pay for, on some things, like I paid for Apple Care on this. On some things on my Mac, I pay for Apple Care per year, which is like $179 a year.
The subscription base.
Yeah, I do the subscription based one because it's indefinite. I pay for it on the iPads.
For the 14-inch MacBook Pro, it's $99 a year.
Yeah.
So 3 years is $300 versus if you bought the 3-year Apple Care, it was $279.
Yeah, I think it's not $179 per year; it's $129 per year. It's
for
more
the
on the 16
for your 16-inch,
and that's worth it to me because my Mac is very expensive, and it's also a Mac that I envision having way longer than 3 years because they've done so good with the M chips, the Apple Silicon. But I pay for it because my iPads are super expensive. I don't, I've already used the swaps. I'm on my 5th generation. I'm version all my Apple devices for this reason. I'm on my V5 on one iPad.
Your 5th replacement.
Yeah. On the other iPad, I'm still on the first one.
Wow.
And the other ones were replaced because they had, light leak or graphics issues. One of them was broken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of them is out of paid repair.
Yeah, paid
accidental
repair.
damage.
So that let's not count that one. I actually need a swap on my iPhone. Richard broke my iPhone. Friend of the show, Richard. He's been on the show before. He broke my iPhone. You see my lens?
Yeah.
So now it's got a crack along across the lens, right in the middle. And if you have macro mode on, which you should turn off, by the way, it sees that crack in macro mode, so it like jumps back and forth in focus repeatedly. So I need to have this changed. But I won't count that as a version because that's a broken one.
Yeah.
But
have you had your 14 Pro Max swapped?
I don't think so. Have I? I can't remember.
I don't know.
This is why I version them, because I've done so many swaps that I don't remember. This is still V1.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's fine.
And I think along the lines with the Mac, the iPhone line has been relatively solid. The 14 was kind of a change with the Dynamic Island thing. Dynamic
Island's great, actually. What's not great is the cameras.
Yeah. I mean, the step from the 13 to the 14, and it's not even the thing is like in the physical change, there hasn't been a ton of change in the hardware of the camera. It's mostly been the software of the camera. Yeah.
I'm laughing at your selfie mirror on your case.
Oh yeah. Did you see this? You haven't noticed this? I've had it for like months. It's great.
I've been traveling most of this time.
That's true. You've been gone.
Yeah. You're correct. And so to the point about the cameras, it's another area where software has come back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah.
Because the sensor is actually quite good. It's provable because the
raw photos.
I can shoot raw and halide and see what the sensor is capable of. And it's very nice, actually, for a phone. For a phone,
yeah.
And what's happening with this camera compared to even the 13 Pro Max, which actually I really liked, it's slower it has more focusing issues. Like they're supposed to be,
especially
there's
especially
focus
slower
pixels.
on the higher megapixel camera because it's got to process that much more data.
Yeah, and it's just not up to the task. It's not. And I think about that in the context of my Alpha 1, which is in my camera bag here, which is
Your Sony Alpha 1 cameras got
50 megapixels, and my buffer doesn't ever fill.
but the software and the processor inside of it are optimized for.
Yeah, it's kind of like when people are like, well, the iPhone's 50 billion times more powerful than the Apollo spacecraft. Well, yes, but that was a specific piece of hardware dedicated to a specific task in the spacecraft.
So the argument for your Alpha 1, yes, much faster, doesn't ever fill the buffer.
Yeah.
But it is specifically built to do that.
Right. But also, I mean, in theory, the camera should be specifically built to be the camera as well. And these are
The
Sony
iPhone,
sensors,
and
incidentally.
a lot of people, this phone is their only camera.
Right.
This
and
is-
if it's your only camera, great. Like we're gonna have a camera phone episode. We have to.
Well, yep.
We have to because
We basically got the rest of the year.
I've
plotted
already
out with
offended
all-
everybody with my audio opinions.
Yeah,
But
let's do it with some phone camera
oh boy.
opinions.
Yeah, we definitely have to do that. But I just
So yes, so
That's the thing.
software is coming to bite Apple in the butt, I guess, and also
And then
kind
the
of
services
on the
experience.
on the hardware. We've kind of talked about the wireless chips, but okay, let's also talk about the services. But I want to bring that all of this kind of comes to the idea of, can Apple hang on to talent? But let's talk about services.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there really isn't much to it. Like the problem is like, I actually think, ostensibly, Mark, that services are
Mark of the Mark
the
guy.
ones that Apple offers are actually pretty good. Apple Music's fine. I hate the app, and they've ruined my music collection. Thank you, Apple.
You're not going to let that go.
Never.
It's been nearly 10 years
It's a
and
decade, and it
still,
just makes me sick to my stomach. It's just disgusting that they did that.
they burned you pretty good.
I mean, because
Okay.
Yeah, but so the Apple TV Plus has vastly exceeded everyone's expectations. I think
The quality
It's
of the content on it is great. The app experience, especially on the Apple TV, is weird because you go into the TV app, which wants to show you everything, and then you've got to navigate to the TV Plus section.
You need to go on your Apple TV. You need to go to Apple TV Plus to go to your Apple TV Plus content, which are all different things.
But it's all called Apple TV.
So it makes no sense. And also the Apple TV, don't get me started on that thing. I hate it. I know everybody loves
I
it.
like mine.
Everybody loves it,
I'm
but it's
so happy
it's
with
another
mine.
thing that's gotten worse and worse and worse.
I have a lot of this stuff turned off. So
Exactly. And then to make the TV like your home now, like you like what is it? Like what is it? Where you start it and it's like
your home base essentially.
Yeah,
for,
I forget what it's called.
for HomeKit stuff.
No, not that. But,
Oh.
but like where you're now playing or whatever your TV like home, like when I have it on my you can turn it off.
The home button on the remote takes you to the Apple TV app.
Yes, versus the main menu.
Yeah, you could change that in the
Yeah,
settings.
thankfully,
Yeah.
because now they've pushed that even more in the latest 16.2, I believe.
Yeah,
And
they
that drove a
changed
lot
kind
of
of the
that
layout.
drove a lot of people nuts too, because they've also put content below the fold where it matters.
Yeah.
Now you need to scroll more to get to it. It's very bothersome.
But the service,
But the service of Apple TV Plus, forget the Apple TV, forget the Apple TV app.
good
is
content.
excellent.
stuff.
Apple News Plus, whatever. I don't care. Nobody cares.
Oh,
I mean, it's just
I like that I can read the Fresno Bee.
yeah. You can read some stuff that you would otherwise be paying for, behind a paywall.
Yeah.
That's great.
Rolling Stone.
But then you go to send a
magazine.
link to your friends and they can't open it. So
Yeah.
whatever.
It's not as shareable.
iCloud still only has 5 gigabytes of free storage, which is bonkers.
And then still only caps at 4 terabytes if you pay for Apple One Premier.
Yeah, which
and
was
another
not-
2 terabytes.
Which was not too big of a deal for vast majority of users until they started coming out with 48 megapixel phones that could take 125 megabyte images plus ProRes, other things, the incredible video.
You're
by
filling
the way.
up. You're filling up that.
Good stuff.
Yeah, iPhone video still
microphones.
top of the class.
Microphones, unsung hero of iPhones. The microphones are
Yes.
excellent.
Yes.
For what they are, especially. The services. The problem isn't the services themselves. Apple Arcade is I think fantastic for the money. Started off
Especially
real
if you have
sketchy.
kids. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just great. No in-app purchase bullshit. No
Ads.
No ads. No getting bombarded with gamified
Just some good,
Smurfberries.
just some
Just good games.
solid
And they take
games.
a lot of the classics and they make them even better because they don't have all that gamification crap. The services themselves are fine. The interfaces for those services are difficult, but
Some
what's
could be
really
better,
bothersome
yeah.
is how much they're throwing those services in your face. And
Yeah, Apple's own internal advertisements
are all over.
in the news app, in the App Store, in Apple TV
Everywhere.
app. If you don't
Banners.
already have Apple TV Plus,
Banners, stuff comes up all the time, and it's just really frustrating to a lot of more users. And what's preventing them for once users are kind of used to that baseline, they are constantly pushing the bar up and up and up, and constantly pushing the buttons.
testing the limits of their patience.
Because if
and-
you have nearly 1 billion users or whatever, then you can, if you add 50 cents to half of them, that's $250 million.
And it's tricky because one of the big things that I 10 years ago I used to recommend to folks the iPhone versus Android, and one of the big things was on iPhone OS, when it was called iPhone OS, you're just not get served as many ads. Android was littered with ads and junk. Still is. And it's sad to see the iPhone follow. I don't know if Apple is seeing that it's working for Google and their competitors, and they're jumping in on it. But it's sad to say I can't use that as a point to encourage folks. Should I get a new iPhone? Should I stick with iPhone? The lines are getting more blurred.
Yeah, and then just wait until things Google just bought Bard, or they announced Bard, I should say, which is their competition for ChatGPT and other, OpenAI and other AI type stuff, which is becoming huge right now, right? It's probably, most people agree that it's what we're going to see in the future. It also makes search more usable because Google is a garbage product. You can't find anything on the web.
It's going to scrape.
Is better
it's
to
going to
search
get them
on.
into. I think it's going to get them into more trouble for scraping data.
Where I'm going with this is when Apple is so locked down that they don't have anything to compete with that, and Android does, I think we're going to see a major sea change, because if it's all done on device and you need a ton of processing to make all that ML work, it's extremely difficult for Apple to compete with that, and it can't scour the web, it can't hold that much data even in the device.
Yeah, in the RAM.
And it just, when Google integrates that,
the machine learning of Bard into Android.
yeah, and then you're starting to see it in Office with Microsoft. And
Microsoft
other
is
services.
investment in OpenAI.
In OpenAI, yeah. So, which incidentally, Elon Musk is a co-founder of.
He's no longer
nobody seems
involved.
to be talking about.
He's
that.
no longer involved at OpenAI, but he was there at the ground floor. Yeah,
Correct. Imagine that. Cracks me up though. But the idea is, I think when you become a commodity, and to your point about talent, things aren't interesting anymore. Right.
They are now the status quo.
You're the status quo. You're not inventing anything new. Apple is supposedly not doing much big this year, with one exception: the potential for them to finally release this headset, this AR headset that they've scrapped their glasses program. Supposedly, this is all rumor.
Yeah.
But imagine an Apple, an AR headset, right? Okay. I mean, there's even rumors that
it's like they're already going to miss the boat, because all the excitement around VR and AR metaverse BS.
Well, it's mostly gaming, right?
It's mostly gaming,
and then
Facebook has been making this. Meta has been making this big push to commodify VR, AR. And I think the public interest in it spiked initially, and I think it's already waning.
I've been playing way more VR games lately.
Game wise, on the game front, it's fun.
There's so much fun.
And there's fun VR 3D content being made now that 3D camera, 3D and 360.
That stuff is it sucks. I haven't seen anything that's compelling or uses it well.
Not since the Jurassic World teaser thing. That was fun.
Still sucked.
Oh, I thought it was
but
fun.
the closest I think that they've come to some kind of immersion of is Alex Honnold, the guy from Free Solo, guy climbed El Capitan with no ropes or anything like that.
Yeah.
He's an amazing climber. He did a partnership with Meta where he put basically a 360 camera on him for these free solo climbs.
Wild.
And the way they did it, they pulled it off extremely well, and it's very jarring and very scary. You feel like you're there with him. So that I would say is like the best in class. I just hit 10,000 steps according to Garmin.
Even though we've been sitting here for the last 2 hours.
I've been so fired up that I don't. That
You got your heart rate
I'm
up.
okay
You
with
tricked
it. I'm fair. It's fair enough. But I burned 200 calories sitting here, but just being so angry. But there really isn't any good visual content. I find that actually the best VR watching experience is just sitting there with the big giant screen in front of your faces. If you have, a large screen TV close to you, as long as the resolution is high
right.
enough,
That's
and
the
refresh rate.
That's still the big.
But even the Quest, the original Oculus Quest, is great for that. It's genuinely good.
Yeah.
I don't use generally wireless headphones. I use wired headphones.
You want
for
to keep
that,
them in sync.
just because of the latency. Especially with games, you have to use wired headphones effectively.
Right. The input to output.
I will
latency needs
occasionally
to be
use
low.
these wirelessly, and of course these with it for certain content where the latency isn't that much of an issue.
Golf apps.
Well,
golf games.
even the Oculus will adjust latency for video content.
Yeah.
I don't have to
Get
be
it
like,
in sync.
I don't have to be like frame perfect.
Yeah.
So and it'll be it does a very good job with that.
So
But
I worry, Apple has never been, aside from its latest push for Apple Arcade and like parents handing their iPad to kids and just knowing that those games are going to be okay. Like Apple isn't known for like hardcore gaming. So can it capture these gamers with whatever AR, VR headset?
okay, just think about Apple's gaming history, period.
Not great.
No, it's a joke. It's not really what they were meant to do. And that never bothered me because they had a different vision and a different story. If they're trying to change to that story, that's crazy. If now Tim Cook in public has been going on about the value and amazingness of AR and how it's going to change the world and how Apple's
I don't know what he's getting some insider information.
Yeah, I mean, like if I can it's great that I can point my iPhone at this table and then see
what a HomePod is going to look like on that
that I
table.
might buy, and then immediately throw in the trash.
You could point your phone at your trash can to see what
and see if it could fall in
the HomePod
infinitely. It'll constantly reset. That's like the 5th time I hit the mic. But I'm having a hard time thinking of anything compelling that Apple could do.
Yeah.
Also, like rumor, I don't know if this is true at all, but waist-mounted battery pack possibly. Maybe even if it's an extended,
Like an
battery pack.
old VHS camcorder with the battery on the belt.
Look, here's my thing. Like when you make everything in the device, and also more importantly, when your silicon is in everything that you make, right? Eventually, I think it'll be in this. Like the H series processors, I think are the systems on a chip that power these they're of the same genesis as the A series stuff. And so it's when you put that processor in everything, there starts to become a point where there's very little differentiation in what those devices can do.
Sure.
Yes, you can have unitaskers, and this is truly a unitasker, that play music, or maybe you put it in a car and it has wheels and it happens to go somewhere. And yes, that is an inherently different function from an iPhone, but you are effectively Taco Bell. Like it's the Taco Bell strategy of
four
you're taking the
ingredients.
same ingredients and you're rejiggering them into very effectively just slightly different versions of effectively the same experience.
Shouldn't have said Taco Bell. I was already hungry.
And it just, when you get to that point, you're boring, and people start to not want to work for you, and then you start to, you don't want people to work from home, which has its benefit, which I understand in some ways.
Why they want to do that. I just feel like, the iPhone 4 leaked to Gizmodo in, what was that, 2011, 2012? 2011.
A long time ago.
And, Apple really jumped on this like culture of secrecy and hasn't let that go since.
Yeah.
And we talk about that, especially when we talk about pro apps and stuff. But like, it's now hurting their physical products as well.
Yeah, their quality is declining, and then also we're starting to see. So you talk about talent. There's actually been lots of reports of an existing talent exodus at Apple, and how hard it is for them to recruit. They pay less than everyone else. They don't have a lot of the benefits.
They
a lot of
think
companies are getting rid of those benefits.
or people.
Or people. Most notably, Twitter, like the way they did things was extremely aggressive and crazy. But
Extreme.
But extreme is the perfect way to put it. But a lot of companies are actually doing the same thing.
Microsoft,
ways.
Meta, Alphabet are all letting people go. But what I'm getting at is like the culture of secrecy, across the company, where there are things that don't need secrecy, as we've talked about with the pro apps a lot, but also getting, feedback and having an open conversation about these products. Sure, they don't want to get scooped by Huawei or Samsung or LG or whatever, but like, yeah, the level of secrecy, and then with people coming back to work from COVID lockdown stuff, and like demanding that people work in office when a lot of places were not doing that yet, is hurting them, and
it's hurting them a lot.
And I think ultimately what would need to happen, not that I have any say or anyone important listens to me, is a culture shift. Would be the thing that needs to change, and a lot of it, they're burning through a lot of goodwill that they've built up, and without a company-wide culture shift, which could cause people to leave. Although I think a culture shift in a positive direction hopefully would keep the people that are there, and encourage more people to come and stay. And yes, they don't. If you can look at their job listings in jobs.apple.com and look at it, and yes, they aren't paying as much, and they're relying on that goodwill of that. We are the prestige place. We don't need to pay you as much, because then you get to feel good about working here
and work on stuff that represents the future, and work on something that's groundbreaking. But you don't get to do that anymore.
But if that's no longer the case, then you might need to spend some of that cash pile that you're sitting on to bring in the talent to make it happen.
And people at the level that they require aren't necessarily motivated by money in that way. They've already got money and they can work anywhere. So, for example, with their chip team, they had a massive exodus of the chip team, and what they did was they finally finished this Apple Silicon transition.
Mostly,
and then most of the Mac Pro. I'm not talking about that. It's the basis of all things now. Macs, and they have a roadmap, and then you're starting to see we're probably not going to see in the lifetime of Macs another leap that we've experienced from Intel going to Apple Silicon, which is way bigger than going from Motorola to Intel.
Yeah.
Which was itself substantial, but this is leaps and bounds ahead.
It's huge.
That's why, I have an M1 Max, and, we talked about you getting an M2, and I think that, it's... I don't care. I'm fine. The M1 Max.
You still are not hitting the ceiling.
Not even close. I was showing Mark the other day, friend of the show. I was doing this. I was copying 15 terabytes to my NAS, and downloading 10 terabytes from Google Drive, and uploading 3 terabytes. And another 480 gigabyte file copy and a 96 gigabyte file copy to another thing. And all happening at the same time to external devices and internally. I also did a copy of a 480 gigabyte file, just a duplicate of a folder, right?
Yeah.
So that I could organize it differently. All internally. I looked at the processor. I was hitting 8% of the processor.
Barely.
I was hitting 32 gigabytes of RAM, and with I think it was I want to say 800 megabytes, I can't remember, of page swap, which means that if I didn't have that much RAM, it would have using the SSD. It would have used the SSD
because it's so fast.
Yeah, so it would have been a higher number there, so it really wouldn't have mattered. And I can't see what the GPU was doing, but it was basically nothing. I wasn't even touching it.
Yeah,
and it was dead silent, no fan. The computer's excellent, It's just the rest of the stuff that concerns me, and their philosophy, and the fact that they can't retain talent. They did this chip transition. Most of the major chip team left.
Yeah.
They've gone on to found other companies or work for other companies.
They were like, we did it, guys. We got the M1 chips out, and M1 Pro, M1 Max, M1 Ultra.
And we got paid.
All right.
Peace. So now
the envelope has been pushed.
Yeah, and now I don't see We've now heard reports of Apple no longer doing the Mac Pro to the extent that they were going to do it, which is theoretical M2 Extreme. So you have the M1, you have the M1 Max, which is like a couple.
Pro, Max, Ultra.
They're basically just combining
together.
them.
Yeah.
Then you have the M1 Ultra, which is 2 M1 Maxes together, and the M1 Extreme or M2 Extreme theoretically would have been 4 of those together: the Jade C die, the Jade 4 die, and they have the Chops, which are the M class, the regular M's.
Yeah.
They're no longer supposedly. This is all rumor too, but they're supposedly no longer doing the Extreme version, which means now how do you differentiate an
Studio
a Mac Pro from a Mac Studio?
Yeah.
When the Mac Studio came out, I said nobody heard, listened, of course. This is basically the 2013 Mac Pro. It's a Phantom trash can Mac Pro.
Yeah. That looks like a Mac Mini.
That looks like a Mac Mini. They call it Studio, but it's a Mac Pro. There's there's no GPU really, except for what's on board, which is way above what the Mac Pro had, that 2013.
Thankfully. Yeah.
So that's good, and it also has the encoding, the decoding. So it's like what the trash can Mac Pro should have been theoretically.
Yeah.
Except the difference is you can't put eGPUs on it, so no external
Apple
GPUs.
Silicon doesn't support eGPUs.
And now the rumors are saying that Apple's is not going to allow external
expandability
for GPUs or RAM in the Mac Pro. So what's the difference, right?
Than a Studio, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I/O is really the difference, but now whereas once they would have topped out at like 768 gigabytes of RAM, and dozens and dozens and dozens of GPU cores, and you can't compete with a 3090.
At this point,
you can't compete with
having a dedicated GPU
or multiple dedicated GPUs. So even though the current machines, even the lowest end Apple Silicon machine smokes the 2019 Mac Pro in virtually every metric, except especially what? Single core.
Yeah,
especially single core. Except if you need GPU power or x86 specific processes. So the thing is like that's scalable, and you could have 1.5 gigs of RAM, or 1.5 terabytes of RAM, excuse me, and put in your own GPUs, and you will not be able to compete with the Apple Silicon will not be able to compete with that for some processes. But
because it's simply not compatible.
When I talk about the commoditization of these things, what happens is they're taking the ceiling and the floor and compressing it together.
Yeah.
When you have the same silicon in everything, and you have Taco Bell, this Taco Bell thing going on, and you've made it so much of a leap, nobody's going to get a Mac Pro as we've known it ever again, but also everybody's getting a Mac Pro as we've known it
because that's all they have.
Because that's all they have. Meaning the M1 or M2 versus the M1 Pro and the M2 Pro and Max, whatever.
Yeah, they're
so close to each other in so many ways, especially for the everyday experience, that fundamentally most people aren't even noticing.
Right.
And they become like to the point where like high-end video pros, photographers,
all I need is a MacBook Air.
Yeah. Or like, what's his name? That Tom Wilk, I'm making his name, a Patrick Tomaso guy. He uses a Mac Mini.
Yeah.
And it's fine. And he does great stuff. So it's like, you don't need that much power anymore. So what does that leave? It leaves those outliers, multiple standard deviations away from the norm,
to just go somewhere else.
Scientific processing, folding proteins, weather dynamics, huge,
really heavy-duty computational stuff that a GPU is going to
high-end rendering, super high-end video games. Those things are highly outlier experiences, especially like when video games, for example, have been commoditized to a console for years and years and years.
Yeah. Or I mean, so Farmville on your phone.
So
Smurf
if I'm
berries.
Apple, I'm going to say, you know what? I don't give a
about the outliers.
about those outliers anymore. And so why even make a Mac Pro? And I think it's really because they need to save face at this point. And they still have these things called Pro apps, which they, every now and then they will they will shovel some of the from that's collected from the Apple Park and shovel it over to the Pro app team so they can have something to eat. And actually show that they care about them in some way. Just to let them know they're alive, right? So because those apps have languished. They don't give a and they are
Still
hiring
love
against
Final
some
Cut.
stuff. There's a lot of rumors about other things happening, but Final Cut's still great for what it is. It's definitely deeply long on the tooth.
Still love Logic.
Yeah, Logic is fine. But so, for example, we'll close with this.
Okay.
Okay, because we're dying here.
We're getting to 3 hours.
Yeah. So here's the deal. If you want to make those amazing keynote videos, right?
Yeah.
If you want to make for Apple, like if you want to work for Apple,
Mm-hmm.
the important thing is that you know Avid and Pro Tools because that's what they use to make those.
And After Effects.
And After Effects, they don't even use, and Blender, they don't even use their own Pro apps.
Yep.
This has been Editor.
This has been Editor. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Gilbert.
We'll see you when we get it together and do another one of these.
Yeah, maybe we'll get this HomePod working.
Here's the best thing Apple has done in years.
Okay, yes. I'm going to give high kudos for this. We almost forgot to talk about this. So I received the HomePod in this, and it is a tapeless shipping box. And the Mac Minis are shipping in them too. Not that I would know. You rip the top off, and the first thing you see is the Apple logo, which is super cool. And then it opens up. Get this thing out of here. Like this, like this, like this.
It's in its little home.
And this is exactly how it came. This is amazing.
And this is perfect for recycling.
Yep.
Super eco-friendly. There's no tape. There's no plastic to get in the way. You can toss this in your recycling if your local municipality recycles properly.
These shipping boxes, now that they're moving to all this tapeless shipping boxes, I am blown away. This is actually my favorite thing.
They need to sell this intellectual property to everyone and make all their money that way.
I actually received an Amazon box that was tapeless the other day.
As well? Wow.
Yeah. And it kind of had this vibe about it, but it had a much bigger rippy part, and it was on the broad side. But this is my favorite thing about the new HomePod.
All right. See you later, everybody.